For ages beyond memory, the fate of Hyrule has been bound to an endless cycle of conflict. Whenever darkness rises, so too does a great hero, alongside a princess carrying the blood of a goddess. Time and again, Ganon returns with his lust for power, Link answers with courage and steel, and Zelda stands as the wisdom that guides the kingdom through ruin and rebirth. Across fallen kingdoms, sacred relics, and battle-scarred lands, their struggle is repeated as a legend written into the soul of the world itself. Welcome to The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda is a media franchise dating all the way back to 1986 with the release of the original Legend of Zelda for the Famicom, and has gone on to become one of the most important and recognizable brands in gaming history, featuring what are often considered several of the greatest video games ever made. Over the course of 40 years of storytelling, it has accumulated a great deal of characters, narratives, and even timelines. And in this video, we are going to dive into all of it, from the narrative of the video games and the timelines they inhabit, to the races and characters that populate the world of Hyrule, and so much more. I'd like to state that this isn't all the lore which exists for the Legend of Zelda universe. It is as concise of a guide of the major and necessary pieces of lore for the world as I could put together with my own discernment. If anything is missing in your own eyes, feel free to leave a comment. With introductions out of the way, let's dive in to the world of The Legend of Zelda. Before time began, there were the three golden goddesses. The three golden goddesses shaped the world of Hyrule from formless chaos. After completing their work, the goddesses departed, leaving behind the Triforce at the location of their departure, a location later known as the Sacred Realm. Later revelations suggest the creation of Hyrule also had a purpose, beyond creation for its own sake. It was made to imprison a being born from ancient chaos, known as Null, which otherwise would have devoured everything in existence. The Golden Goddesses are the central divine figures who appear throughout The Legend of Zelda. The trio, Din, Nehru, and Farore, are portrayed as sister deities who shaped the world and founded the land that would become the Kingdom of Hyrule. Even though they are arguably, if not undoubtedly, the most significant gods in the setting, direct references to them are relatively rare. Within the games, awareness of their existence seems largely confined to the people of Hyrule, while other races typically honor their own local or patron gods. Each goddess is linked to a core virtue, as well as matching element in color. Din aligns with power, fire, and the color red. Nehru with wisdom, water, and the color blue, and Farore with courage, wind, and the color green. Together, they created the Triforce, the sacred relic embodying their three defining qualities. Din, the goddess of power, is closely tied to ideas of strength and force. She's most often linked with fire and earth, and her presence is commonly connected to rugged landscapes like mountains and volcanoes. Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, is honored as the one who set the rules that govern Hyrule's world, both the natural order and deeper unseen principles, and is even credited with shaping space and time. She's typically associated with water, which is why she's revered as a deity of the seas. Because she established the world's laws, she may also be connected to the goddess of time referenced in the land of Termina. Nehru is also frequently linked with music, especially singing, and stringed instruments. Farore is the source of life across the Hyrulean realm. As a result, she's strongly associated with places where life thrives, particularly forests, and her spirit is often symbolized by wind. Matching that theme, Farore is commonly connected to wind instruments, such as flutes and ocarinas. The goddesses are depicted throughout the series as stepping into events from time to time after creation, usually in ways framed as benevolent or meant to protect the greater good. Now let's have a look at the grand artifact of the goddesses, the Triforce. The Triforce is given several titles across the series, including the Golden Power, Master Force, Prime Energy, and Ultimate Power. Within Hyrule's lore, the Triforce is treated as the kingdom's defining sacred force, the highest authority and greatest wellspring of power. No other magical force is portrayed as matching it, and anyone who fully possesses it can become nearly all-powerful, surpassed only by the goddesses. Its influence is also tied to Hyrule's fate. In the hands of someone pure-hearted, it can usher in an era of peace and flourishing. But in the hands of someone corrupt, it can plunge the land into darkness. The Triforce carries the divine power of the goddesses, but unlike its creators, it has no moral judgment. It is completely impartial, granting the wishes of whoever takes it, regardless of their intentions. And the more intense the desire, the more strongly the Triforce brings it into reality. Its home, the Sacred Realm, is described as a reflection of the claimant's inner nature. If the person who seizes the Triforce has a pure heart and an even balance of power, wisdom, and courage, they can wield its authority, and the Sacred Realm is reshaped into a heavenly paradise. If that balance is missing, the Triforce splits into three pieces, leaving the person with only the fragment aligned with what dominates within them, typically power, while the Sacred Realm becomes corrupted. To reclaim the complete Triforce after this division, the one who first touched it must track down the other two pieces, carried by two fate-chosen individuals marked by the Triforce, and overcome those two to take their fragments. A single Triforce piece can be broken down even further into smaller fragments called Triforce shards. When all three main Triforce parts are brought near each other, they begin to resonate, almost as if drawn together while trying to reunite into one whole. The Triforce of Power embodies Din, the goddess of power. Its bearer receives what's described as true power, an overwhelming, near-absolute strength that elevates the wielder beyond ordinary mortals. It grants immense might, powerful resilience close to invulnerability, and seemingly limitless magical energy. Because Ganon relentlessly seeks domination, he is most often the one who holds this piece, though on rare occasions, others, including Link, have possessed it. This fragment forms the top section of the Triforce. The Triforce of Wisdom embodies Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, and the goddess associated with establishing law. It grants its holder profound insight along with extraordinary powers, such as healing and possibly telepathy. It also guides its bearer towards sound judgment, elevating them beyond ordinary and mortal understanding. Princess Zelda is the one who commonly carries this piece, which forms the lower left portion of the Triforce. The Triforce of Courage embodies Furore, the goddess of courage and the origin of life. Link typically bears this fragment, empowering his own bravery. Even though Link usually relies on swordsmanship rather than advanced magic, this piece still provides powerful supernatural support, including defenses against dark sorcery. It occupies the lower right section of the Triforce. We will now delve into the full timeline for the Legend of Zelda series. If the plot points being discussed are part of one of the series' major installments, you will see the game's title in the bottom left corner of the screen. As we encounter pieces of lore necessary for understanding the overall plot, we will elaborate on them, displaying the title of the subject in the top right corner of the screen. Major pieces of lore that are not necessary to understand the overarching narrative will be elaborated on in other sections of the video. Also, this timeline aims to be as concise as possible, an introduction to the overall narrative of the Legend of Zelda series. Certain details from the narrative of the games may be passed over for the sake of maintaining this conciseness. Although The Legend of Zelda began in 1986, Nintendo did not officially publish a full series timeline until the publishing of the art book Hyrule Historia in 2011 for the franchise's 25th anniversary. The chronology had existed internally at Nintendo for years, and by 2007 it had already been confirmed that Ocarina of Time split the story into two parallel branches, later named the Child and Adult timelines. Hyrule Historia added a third path, the Fallen Hero timeline, to better align earlier games with the larger continuity. Everything before the three-way split is grouped under an earlier era tied to Hylia and the Hero of Time. The exact placement of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom has been left intentionally unclear by Nintendo. Nintendo treats the timeline as flexible, leaving room for interpretation and creative freedom, rather than enforcing a rigid canon, but for the sake of this video, we will treat it as rigidly as we can, based on information given directly from Nintendo. After the Golden Goddesses shaped the world, the deity Hylia was charged with guarding the Triforce, a responsibility she upheld throughout the period later called the Era of Hylia. That peace was shattered when the Demon King Demise and his forces erupted from a fissure in the earth, launching an assault on the surface's inhabitants as they sought to claim the Triforce and dominate the world. Fearing for the safety of the Hylians, the goddess Hylia brought them together on a great slab of land, sealed the Triforce within the Temple of Hylia, and lifted both the sanctuary and her people into the heavens, so Demise couldn't reach them. The airborne landmass, along with other floating islands, became their new home, Skyloft. To ensure they remained protected, she formed a barrier of clouds that divided the sky from the surface and blocked Demise's forces from following. Hylia allied with the 5 tribes who still lived on the surface, and together they waged war against the Demon King and his armies. The conflict ended when Demise was subdued and bound, allowing peace to return. Hylia confined him within the place later called the Sealed Grounds, and the power of that seal twisted his existence into a hulking beast-like state known as the Imprisoned. Though the war left Hylia severely wounded, she also realized Demise's seal would eventually weaken. To prepare for his return, she forged Phi, a spirit meant to dwell within the Goddess Sword, the blade first used against Demise. Phi's role was to guide and support a destined hero, ensuring the Demon King could be defeated again when he resurfaced. After setting up trials for the future hero and safeguards for Hyrule ahead of Demise's return, Hylia took one last dramatic step. She chose to relinquish her godhood, placing her soul into a mortal body, so she could one day wield the Triforce's power, and she was presumed to have perished in the process. Long afterward, in the Sky Era, Hylia is reincarnated on Skyloft as a human girl named Zelda. She grows up with no recollection of her former life as the goddess, so she doesn't realize who she truly is. Zelda is also Link's longtime childhood friend, Link being the fated hero destined to face the great evil. A Skyloft knight in training, Link eventually completes his final trial, even though his envious rival Groose tries to undermine him. During the celebration, a sinister tornado snatches Zelda and pulls her below the cloud barrier. With guidance from Phi, Link accepts his role as the foretold hero and journeys to the surface to rescue her. His quest leads through Faron Woods, Eldin Volcano, and the Lanayru Desert, where he repeatedly confronts Girahim, a demon lord determined to revive Demise. Link finally reaches Zelda, but her guardian Impa blocks their return and sends Zelda back in time through a Gate of Time, before destroying the gate to prevent anyone from following. To unlock a second Gate of Time and gain the strength to defeat Demise, Link completes Sacred Trials and gathers the Sacred Flames, reforging the Goddess Sword into the Master Sword. In the past, he discovers Zelda is Hylia reborn and that Hylia arranged everything so a human hero could claim the Triforce and end Demise. Zelda then enters a crystal slumber to strengthen the seal and empower Link's blade. Link later obtains the Triforce on Skyloft and wipes out Demise in his own era, freeing Zelda, until Girahim abducts her and uses her to revive Demise in the past. Link overcomes Girahim and defeats Demise, sealing his essence within the Master Sword, but Demise's final curse vows his hatred will resurface to plague those tied to Link and Zelda. With Phi settling into endless sleep as the sword is placed into safekeeping, Impa stays behind in the past to guard it. Back in the present, the elderly woman at the temple is revealed to be Impa before she dies. In the end, Link and Zelda decide to remain on the surface, welcoming Skyloft's people below and setting the stage for what will become the Kingdom of Hyrule. Because of her sacrifices to safeguard the Hylians who carry her name, Hylia is regarded as one of Hyrule's most revered and cherished gods. The lineage stemming from her human rebirth becomes the enduring royal house, and from that legacy comes the custom of naming royal daughters Zelda, in honor of Hylia's mortal form. Now, that was a lot, but the most important thing to note from that entire story is actually the curse mentioned at the very end. As he dies, Demise tells Link the battle isn't truly finished. His hatred will return again and again, reborn as a force bent on conquering the world and hunting those tied to the goddess's bloodline and the hero's spirit in an unending cycle. This is the setup for the broader series timeline, explaining why the saga keeps revisiting the same central trio, Ganon as the embodiment of that hatred, Zelda as the inheritor of the goddess's lineage, and Link as the bearer of the hero's spirit, reappearing across ages in a repeating pattern of conflict. Link is the central hero of the Legend of Zelda series, usually depicted as a young but highly skilled and daring swordsman, often recognizable by his green attire. Across the games, his role is to protect the world from the recurring evil of Ganon, with his stories highlighting exceptional bravery, quick thinking, and determination as he faces dangerous foes and complex trials. Like Zelda and Ganon, Link's look changes from game to game. Still, he's most often portrayed as youthful and fair-featured, with blonde hair, long pointed ears, and bright blue eyes, and typically dressed in a green tunic and a floppy cap. Link is often depicted as a child, though in some stories he appears as a teenager or young adult. While he isn't usually portrayed with a heavily muscular build, he is extremely agile and physically capable. In the main games and most related media, he rarely speaks outright, even in recent entries, and usually expresses himself only through brief sounds or reactions. As the bearer of the hero's spirit and follower of the warrior's code, Link is typically portrayed as humble, intelligent, and remarkably courageous. He is honest and compassionate towards others and shows little fear when confronting evil, including against his longtime adversary Ganon. His natural talent in combat allows him to fight with near superhuman precision, delivering lightning-fast strikes and reacting instantly with his shield, regardless of the technique he faces. Link's various incarnations aren't all depicted at the same level of skill. Some are better trained, more seasoned, or have different talents than others. Still, across the series, every version of Link is shown to be formidable enough to defeat demons or similarly dangerous monsters on his own. Beyond his skill with a sword, Link is also recognized for carrying a wide assortment of tools that assist him throughout his journeys, helping him overcome obstacles and solve many of the puzzles he encounters. While his equipment changes from one game to another, certain tools appear so often that they've become closely tied to the character. Among the most common are the bow, bombs, and the boomerang, and although magic isn't his primary specialty, he's still depicted as a capable advanced spell user. Ganon is typically portrayed as a towering, merciless demon with immense strength and a command of dark sorcery, often leading hordes of monsters that threaten Hyrule. As the sworn foe of Link and Princess Zelda, his enduring aim is to conquer Hyrule, extend his rule over the world, and eliminate Link. Driven by an intense desire to dominate, Ganon is most often depicted as the holder of the Triforce of power, which is tied to the essence of the goddess Din. Possessing this sacred piece greatly amplifies his strength and fuels vast dark magic, making him an extreme danger to Hyrule and beyond. Unlike Link and Princess Zelda, who are typically portrayed as Hylians, Ganon is a demon. As a result, his design shifts even more dramatically across the series than theirs, but he's commonly shown as a massive, thick-set figure resembling an upright humanoid boar. In Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and Hyrule Warriors, Ganon is portrayed in a notably more savage form. He sports prominent ram-like horns, blazing pupilless eyes, and a tail, along with thick red hair reminiscent of his human appearance. In Breath of the Wild, Ganon appears as Calamity Ganon, an enraged destructive spirit formed from pure malice. In A Link Between Worlds, he takes on a different variation after merging with Yuga, creating Yuga Ganon, where the antagonist gains Ganon's body, complete with purple-toned skin, Yuga's outfit, and the beast's signature hair. Ganondorf, often titled the Evil King, Gerudo King, or Demon King, is essentially Ganon in a human guise. In this form, he's depicted as a very tall, heavily built Gerudo warlock. His look also shifts across the series, though less radically than his beastly counterpart. Using the Triforce of Power, he is often shown able to transform between Ganondorf and Ganon at will. Princess Zelda is a central figure in Hyrule's royal line, usually shown as the kingdom's princess and the reigning king's daughter, placing her just below him in authority. In a few stories, such as Twilight Princess, she's depicted as the primary or even sole ruler of Hyrule. As the human reincarnation of the goddess Hylia, Zelda is fated to safeguard the Triforce of Wisdom. Princess Zelda isn't one specific person, much like Link, but a succession of different women who share the same name across Hyrule's long history. Unlike Link, these Zeldas are all connected through the same royal bloodline. She's also taken on alternate identities in a few stories, such as Sheik or Tetra. Even though each Zelda has her own personality and life, the enduring essence tied to Hylia is carried forward from one generation to the next. Sheik initially appears to be a male member of the Sheikah. In Ocarina of Time, however, Sheik is revealed to be Princess Zelda in disguise. Orphaned early in life, the young pirate Tetra takes up her late mother's legacy by becoming the captain of her own ship, leading an older crew that nevertheless holds her in high regard. She often comes across as tough and tomboyish, charging straight into challenges and sometimes acting blunt or bossy. Still, beneath the hard edge, she's genuinely compassionate, a side that becomes clearer when her true identity as Princess Zelda is revealed in The Wind Waker. Zelda's design changes across the series, but she's most often portrayed as a young Hylian with a slender, fair complexion, long pointed ears, blue eyes, and blonde hair similar to Link's. Zelda is a compassionate, benevolent leader with wisdom beyond her age and genuine devotion to her people. Like Link, she's gracious, empathetic, and willing to put herself at risk for others. Although the earlier games often place her as a damsel in distress, many later stories show she's far from powerless. She can fight when needed, most often relying on magic as her primary means of combat. Many versions of Zelda possess the Triforce of Wisdom. This grants her exceptional insight, helping her make thoughtful decisions. It also provides a range of magical abilities, such as healing, which may also stem from her royal lineage connected to Hylia and, in some eras, the Light Force. Much like the sages, Zelda often uses these powers to help seal away or counter great evils. Long after the events of Skyward Sword, Hyrule fell into a turbulent era filled with war and ongoing battles over control of the Triforce, which remained hidden in the Sacred Realm. This era was known as the Era of Chaos. During this unrest, a faction of exceptionally strong magic users called the Interlopers tried to seize power over the Sacred Realm and claim the Triforce for themselves. To achieve that goal, they wielded a fearsome artifact known as the Fused Shadow, a dark object infused with immense magical power. In response, the Golden Goddesses commanded Hyrule's light spirits to intervene and put an end to the Interlopers' attempts at conquest. The spirits broke the Fused Shadow into 4 pieces, concealing 3 throughout Hyrule while allowing the Interlopers to keep 1 fragment, all so the relic could never again be used at full power. The Spirits of Light are sacred beings who protect Hyrule's 4 provinces. Each one watches over a specific region, and they are only visible to those who possess true courage. The Twilight Realm is a separate dimension that exists alongside Hyrule. It is a land of darkness and endless dusk, illuminated only by 2 holy spheres, which are housed in a shrine near the Palace of Twilight Central Plaza. The sole connection between the Shadow World and Hyrule is the Mirror of Twilight, an ancient relic that serves as the only passage between them. After the Interlopers were banished there, they remained cut off from Hyrule for many generations. Over time, they changed, adapting to the realm's dim and unfamiliar nature until they gradually became the Twili, far removed from what they had once been. Some came to cherish the calm and beauty of life in Twilight, while others resented their separation and saw themselves as victims of the light world. Although they no longer held the overwhelming power they once possessed, the Tweelies still retained a measure of magic, and the most powerful among them were capable of teleportation. To safeguard the Triforce, the sage Rauru constructed a new Temple of Time, naming the temple after ancient stories depicting the events of Skyward Sword that told of a hero who journeyed across 2 times. He built it over the site of the former sealed temple, surrounding the pedestal where the Master Sword rested at the only known entrance to the sacred realm. He then placed the Triforce within the Temple of Light, located within the Sacred Realm, and sealed the Sacred Realm with himself still inside, an event remembered as the sealing of the Sacred Realm. From that point on, the Master Sword served as the link between the Temple of Time and the Temple of Light, while the entrance was shut behind the Door of Time. Sages are recurring figures throughout the Legend of Zelda series. They act as guardians of Hyrule, serve as a link between Hyrule and the Sacred Realm, protect the power of the Master Sword, and deal with dangers that seriously threaten the kingdom. In many cases, a sage only steps into their role after being awakened when the time of need arrives, with that destiny often tied to a spiritual heritage or bloodline passed down from an earlier sage. After awakening, the sages frequently aid Link in a variety of ways. They may clear sealed paths, enhance the power of the Master Sword, bestow blessings, and lend unique abilities during battle. They are also often seen uniting their strength to contain, weaken, or seal away Ganon. At the time of this video's publishing, 10 different kinds of sages are known to exist. The sages of Fire, Water, and Spirit appear in Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, and Tears of the Kingdom. The sages of Light, Forest, and Shadow are featured in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. The Sage of Wind appears in The Wind Waker and Tears of the Kingdom, while the Sage of Earth is known only from The Wind Waker. The Sages of Lightning and Time are also exclusive to a single title, that being Tears of the Kingdom. As first revealed in Skyward Sword, the Master Sword, originally known as the Goddess Sword, is a sacred blade once wielded by the goddess Hylia. It was later forged into the Master Sword through the efforts of Hylia's chosen hero and the sword's spirit Phi. The blade was strengthened by being immersed in the 3 sacred flames found throughout Hyrule. These holy flames were powerful relics that amplified the Goddess Sword's abilities, and they are described as manifestations of force, the sacred energy present within all living things. Din's flame specifically granted the sword the sacred ability to repel evil. That power was later strengthened even further when the blade received the blessing of Princess Zelda, Hylia's descendant, allowing it to become the true Master Sword. Filled with holy strength and purity, the blade was fated to destroy the great evils that repeatedly threaten Hyrule, which is why it serves as the weapon capable of defeating Ganon in nearly every game where he appears, with A Link to the Past being a notable exception. The Sacred Sword can also shatter magical barriers and dispel curses created through powerful dark magic. Beyond that, it has the power to seal away the remains of a demon. Because the blade was made to serve the cause of good, only a true hero, someone pure of heart and strong in body, can wield it, which is almost always Link. Anyone with a corrupted heart is unable to even touch the sword. If someone too young to fully bear the role of hero draws the Master Sword from its pedestal, the blade will place that hero's soul into a sealed sleep and awaken them only when they are old enough to wield it properly. If a person without the necessary strength tries to pull the Master Sword from its pedestal, the attempt will cost them their life. The blade also serves as the key to the Temple of Light. When it is removed from its place in the Temple of Time, the path to the Sacred Realm opens, granting access to the Triforce. After the era of chaos came the era of prosperity, a time defined by the founding of the Kingdom of Hyrule by the descendants of the goddess Hylia. During this age, Hyrule's royal family was established and took on the duty of protecting the Triforce. To guard it, they built Hyrule Castle near the Temple of Time and kept the relic's existence shrouded in secrecy. Because of their close bloodline connection to Hylia, many members of the royal family possessed sacred powers, and the name Zelda, drawn from Hylia's first human incarnation, became a name traditionally associated with Hylian princesses and queens. It was during one of these early eras in the life of the Kingdom of Hyrule, known as the Era of Force, that a great darkness fell over the land as monstrous forces poured forth without warning, covering the realm in chaos and pushing the kingdom close to destruction. With Hyrule on the verge of total destruction, the small Minish descended from above and bestowed two sacred gifts upon the hero of men: the Picori Blade, a magical sword forged by the Minish, and the Light Force, an extraordinary wellspring of near-limitless magic. Armed with these blessings, the hero defeated the invading creatures and brought light back to Hyrule. To prevent the monsters from ever devastating the land again, the hero of men imprisoned them inside the bound chest. By locking it away with the Picori Blade, he finally ended the conflict and restored lasting peace to the kingdom. At the same time, the Light Force was hidden within the Princess of Hyrule so that no one could abuse its power. From then on, she and those descended from her carried magical abilities that endured throughout each generation. The story of this war was later preserved in stained glass windows inside the Elemental Sanctuary, a sacred place linking Hyrule to the Minish realm. The Minish, whom the Hylians call the Picori, are a tiny people small enough to fit within the width of Link's thumb. They have a mouse-like appearance with human traits, including long pointed ears similar to those of Hylians, and they originate from a dimension known as the Minish realm. To commemorate the Minish for aiding Hyrule during the war, the royal family created the Picori Festival as a yearly tribute to honor them. During the celebration, people shared tales of the conflict and of the hero of men, while the kingdom hosted a swordsmanship tournament whose champion earned a smith's sword and the privilege of laying a hand on the Picori Blade. Stories shared at this event also explained that the Minish Door, the passage connecting Hyrule and the Minish realm, would open for a short time once every 100 years, making it possible for the Minish to travel to Hyrule or return to their own world. At one such tournament, a mysterious stranger named Vaati emerged as the victor. During the ceremony, however, he revealed his true purpose by breaking the sacred Picori Blade and using its power to open the bound chest, releasing the monsters sealed inside. In his search for the legendary Light Force, Vaati then struck the castle, transformed Princess Zelda into stone, and fled. Link is tasked with seeking out the Picori so the broken blade can be restored. In the Minish Woods, he saves Eslo, a wise Minish who has been cursed into the shape of a hat. Eslo reveals that Vaati was once his student, but betrayed him after stealing the Mage's Cap, a hat with the power to grant wishes, and using it to become a powerful sorcerer. The Minish later tell Link that the sword can only be reforged by collecting the four elements: earth, fire, water, and wind. Vaati is aware of an ancient tale claiming that gathering these elements will lead to the Light Force, so he allows Link to undertake the search for him. After gathering the elements, Link reforges the broken blade into the Four Sword, a sacred weapon capable of driving away evil. In a secret sanctuary, he uncovers the truth that the Light Force resides within Zelda and has been inherited through the princesses of Hyrule. Vaati, also learning this, attempts to claim that power for himself, but Link overcomes him and uses the Four Sword to rescue Zelda. After Vaati's defeat, Zelda uses the Mage's Cap, strengthened by the Light Force still within her, to help restore peace to Hyrule, while Eslo departs for the Minish realm. Although Vaati was thought to have perished, he later returned. With no recollection of his former existence as a Minish, he took the title of the Wind Mage and made the Palace of Winds his stronghold. That palace had once belonged to the Wind Tribe, who had hidden the wind element there to keep it out of the hands of evil. Vaati spread fear across the land by abducting young women until a hero appeared bearing the Four Sword. The hero sealed Vaati within the blade and set it in an isolated region of Hyrule to keep the wind sorcerer imprisoned. In time, a shrine was built around the sword's resting place, and this site became known as the Four Sword Sanctuary. Many generations later, Vaati the Wind Mage escapes his seal and abducts Princess Zelda, carrying her away to the Palace of Winds. Link witnesses the kidnapping take place and pulls the Four Sword from its pedestal, causing himself to divide into four separate links. To reach Vaati's palace, the four links set out to collect 3 keys guarded by the Great Fairies in the Sea of Trees, Talus Cave, and Death Mountain. Great Fairies, sometimes called guardian spirits, are powerful fairy beings with large human-like forms. Their primary role is to restore Link's health when he gets injured, and they can also replenish his magic. Their designs vary widely from game to game, though they are most often found dwelling in great fairy fountains. The Lynx eventually overcome Vati in his palace and save Princess Zelda. The Wind Mage is sealed within the Four Sword once more, and the blade is placed back in its pedestal. With that, Link is restored to his original single form. After the era of Force, Hyrule was plunged into a brutal civil war. Countless people lost their lives before the conflict finally came to an end, with the conclusion of the conflict leading to the kingdom's unification under a single rule. During this time, Ganondorf, leader of the Gerudo and the human form of Ganon, once more pledged loyalty to the King of Hyrule, bringing the Gerudo Desert under the kingdom's authority. In truth, however, his oath was only a deception, meant to earn the king's trust and give him freedom to carry out his own schemes within Hyrule. During this post-war period, peoples such as the Zora, Gorons, and Kokiri were seldom seen in major Hylian centers, and interactions with them were usually kept to formal or political matters. Travel to many parts of the kingdom required the approval of the royal family, leaving little room for meaningful cultural exchange. Amid this era of conflict, a mortally wounded Hylian mother escaped to Kokiri Forest and placed her infant son, Link, in the care of the Great Deku Tree, and then allowed him to be raised among the Kokiri. The Kokiri, sometimes called the Kokiri tribe or the Children of the Forest, are small, youthful forest dwellers who live in Kokiri Forest. The Kokiri are descended from the Hylians. As Hylian society became more developed and industrial, they turned away from city life and embraced a life in harmony with nature. Unlike the other peoples of Hyrule, the Kokiri appear not to grow older, and they are known for their youthful, elf-like features. Each Kokiri is given a fairy by the Great Deku Tree to guide and watch over them. The Kokiri make use of their fairy companions in helpful ways, including communicating over long distances. Within the forest, having a fairy is seen as the mark of a true Kokiri. The Kokiri wear green tunics, much like Link's iconic outfit. The girls are recognized by their headbands, while the boys wear long, floppy green caps, similar to Link's. They make their homes inside hollowed tree trunks. The Great Deku Tree, meanwhile, is an enormous, living tree who serves as the forest's protective guardian. He watches over both the woodland itself and the small community that lives beneath his care, and he is widely regarded as one of the oldest and wisest figures in the Zelda series. One day, Link is woken up by his fairy, Navi, after experiencing a troubling vision of a dark armored horseman pursuing a young girl on horseback. He is called to the Great Deku Tree, who is slowly dying from a curse cast by an evil man from the desert. Before he dies, the Deku Tree entrusts Link with the spiritual stone of the forest and sends him to meet Princess Zelda at Hyrule Castle. There, Zelda reveals that Ganondorf is trying to obtain the Triforce and urges Link to collect the 3 spiritual stones so he can enter the Sacred Realm before Ganondorf does. When Link comes back with the spiritual stones, he sees the vision from his nightmare become reality as Ganondorf pursues Zelda and her guardian Impa as they flee. As she escapes, Zelda tosses Link the Ocarina of Time. The Ocarina of Time is a blue metal wind instrument with the power to influence time and transport its player to different places. This sacred artifact has been carefully protected by Hyrule's royal family and quietly handed down through generations to keep its power out of the wrong hands. Link uses the spiritual stones in the Ocarina of Time at the Temple of Time to reach the Master Sword. After opening the Door of Time and pulling the blade from its pedestal, he is sealed away in the Chamber of Sages for 7 years and later awakens as the Hero of Time, where he is greeted by the Sage of Light Rauru. During that period, Ganondorf enters the Sacred Realm, claims the Triforce, and plunges Hyrule into chaos, filling it with monsters. But because the Triforce splits into 3 parts when Ganondorf attempts to claim it, Ganondorf is left with only the Triforce of Power, while Link receives the Triforce of Courage, and Princess Zelda gains the Triforce of Wisdom. With his newfound strength, Ganondorf takes over Hyrule Castle, and the Sacred Realm is corrupted into the Evil Realm by his dark heart. With the assistance of Sheik, Link restores 5 corrupted temples and awakens the remaining sages: Saria, Darunia, Ruto, Impa, and Nabooru. Along the way, he uses the Master Sword to move between his childhood and adult timelines. In regards to the time travel occurring, when Link first draws the Master Sword, it places him in a sealed sleep for 7 years because he is not yet old enough to handle its full strength. That seal is what causes the shift from Child Link to Adult Link. Once he awakens, the Master Sword and its pedestal become a link between the 2 points in time. Returning the sword to the pedestal sends him back to his childhood, and pulling it again brings him forward to the future. He travels between the 2 eras because certain parts of his journey can only be completed at specific points in time. After the sages are awakened, Sheik is revealed to actually be Zelda in disguise, as well as one of the sages. After an intense battle, Link and Princess Zelda use the power of the Master Sword together with the sages to imprison Ganondorf within the evil realm. As he is sealed away, Ganondorf swears vengeance against Link, Zelda, and the future descendants of the sages if he is ever freed. Once peace is restored, Zelda uses the Ocarina of Time to send Link back to his rightful time. He returns the Master Sword to its pedestal and seals the door of time while Navi disappears, having fulfilled her purpose. After the events of Ocarina of Time, the story divides into 3 separate timeline branches. One timeline is technically an alternate timeline, named the Fallen Hero timeline, where the Hero of Time is actually defeated by Ganon. The other 2 timelines occur as a result of Link defeating Ganon, an outcome that leads to the split when Zelda sends the hero back to his childhood. The child timeline follows Link's return to the past, while the adult timeline continues in the future world he leaves behind. Of note is that, inexplicably, the Master Sword remains present in both branches. In the child timeline, Link places it back in the pedestal of time, while in the adult timeline, Zelda is the one who returns it. The child timeline is the branch that begins when Link returns to the past at the end of Ocarina of Time. In this version of events, the Hero of Time warns the royal family about Ganondorf's betrayal during the event known as the Return of the Hero, preventing his plan from unfolding and stopping his rise before it can begin. This timeline includes the stories of Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, and Four Swords Adventures. A few months after the events of Ocarina of Time and the Return of the Hero, Link sets out from Hyrule to search for Navi. While traveling through the Lost Woods, he is ambushed by an individual named Skull Kid, who is under the influence of Majora's Mask, a powerful ancient relic. Aided by the fairy siblings Tottle and Tail, Skull Kid steals both Epona and the Ocarina of Time. He then turns Link into a Deku Scrub and leaves him trapped in Termina, a mysterious parallel world centered around Clocktown. Inside the clock tower of Clocktown, Link encounters the Happy Mask salesman, who explains that Skull Kid stole Majora's Mask from him. He offers to lift the curse keeping Link trapped in Termina if Link can recover both the Ocarina of Time and the stolen mask, but warns that the world has only 72 hours before the moon crashes into the world. Under Majora's influence, Skull Kid intends to destroy Termina by pulling the moon from the sky. During a confrontation at the top of the clock tower, Link regains the Ocarina and plays the Song of Time, sending himself back to the beginning of the 3-day cycle and becoming caught in a repeating time loop. He later learns the Song of Healing, which restores him to human form while allowing him to keep the Deku Mask for necessary transformations. Link journeys across Termina and rescues the 4 giants, the ancient guardians with the power to stop the falling moon. On the final day, he returns to Clocktown and plays the Oath to Order, calling the giants to hold the moon back. Their intervention causes Skull Kid to collapse, as Majora's Mask leaves him behind and reveals itself as the true enemy. Link then enters the moon, where he finds a strange dreamlike place inhabited by masked children. By giving up the masks he has gathered, he receives the Fierce Deity's Mask, which transforms him into a powerful warrior. With this strength, he defeats Majora and saves Termina. Afterwards, Skull Kid is officially freed from the mask's control, the Happy Mask salesman leaves with the purified mask, and Link rides back into the forest on his way to continue the search for Navi. After the events of Majora's Mask, the Hero of Time is never seen alive again. Following his death, he endures as the Hero Shade, a mysteriously ghostly warrior with a skeletal form. We will explore the Hero Shade more in the characters section of the video. Years after the Hero of Time's journey through Hyrule and Termina, Ganondorf was brought to justice. His attempted conquest was exposed before it could truly unfold, and he was captured and imprisoned. Fearing that he would bring even more destruction if ever released, Hyrule condemned him to execution at the Arbiter's grounds, a deserted prison once reserved for the kingdom's most dangerous criminals. In the Mirror Chamber, the ancient sages bound Ganondorf in chains and prepared to carry out his execution. This sacred open-air chamber stood above the Arbiter's grounds and held the Mirror of Twilight, the only gateway to the Twilight Realm. There, the Sage of Water raised a blade of pure light and drove it into the King of Evil's chest, striking a fatal blow and leaving behind a radiant wound. Ganondorf stood at the brink of death, but at that moment, the Triforce of Power appeared on the back of his right hand, saving his life and restoring him. Revitalized and consumed by fury, he shattered his restraints. The sages were stunned by the glowing crest on his hand, unable to understand how he had come to possess such divine power. In an instant, Ganondorf struck down the Sage of Water and erased her completely, then tore the execution blade from his chest and claimed it for himself. Horrified that their execution had failed, the sages turned to the Mirror of Twilight as their final option. The mirror drew the Gerudo King into the Twilight Realm, sealing him away since the sages could not destroy him outright. Though imprisoned and unable to threaten Hyrule directly for a time, Ganondorf's spirit endured within that shadowy world, where he saw a path back to the Realm of Light. Over time, he restored his strength by feeding on the bitterness and resentment that lingered among the Twili and seeped through the fabric of the Twilight Realm. Many years later, during the Twilight Era, Ganondorf appears before Zant, a bitter member of the Twili royal court. Zant had believed he was destined to inherit rule over the Twilight Realm, but his people distrusted him, fearing that his ambition and hunger for conquest would repeat the mistakes of their ancestors. Instead, the throne was given to a female Twili named Midna. Resentful of both the royal family and the confinement of his people within the Twilight Realm, Zant turned away from his people and began pursuing his own ambitions. After being banished to the Twilight Realm by the sages when his execution failed, Ganondorf revealed himself to Zant as a blazing godlike vision and offered him power. With that dark gift, Zant overthrew Midna, transformed her into an imp, and stripped her of the authority and magic she held as the ruler of the Twili. He then changed many of his people into shadow beasts and declared himself the King of Twilight, intending to spread Twilight across Hyrule so the Twili could reclaim what he believed was theirs. Zant invaded Hyrule Castle and forced Princess Zelda to choose between surrender and the destruction of her people. To spare Hyrule, Zelda yielded, and before long, Zant shrouded most of the kingdom in Twilight. Twilight is the name given to any land that has been robbed of light. It is described by several titles, including the World of Shadows and the Darkened Realm. When an area falls under Twilight, those living there are transformed, becoming either wandering spirits or creatures of shadow. During the era of Twilight, Link lives as a young ranch hand at Ordon Village, a quiet settlement south of Hyrule. While getting ready to bring a gift to Hyrule's royal family, his peaceful day is shattered when goblin-like creatures called Boblins raid Ordon Village and kidnap children from the village. As Link chases after them, he reaches a barrier of Twilight and is pulled into it, finding Hyrule has been engulfed in shadow. There, a mark on his hand begins to glow, and a curse transforms him into a wolf. After transforming, Link is captured and held within the Twilight-shrouded Hyrule Castle, where he meets Midna, who helps him break out. At the top of the castle, they come face to face with Princess Zelda, who reveals that the kingdom has fallen under the control of Twilight. Midna then guides Link back toward the normal world, explaining that the only way to move forward is to drive back the Twilight. Link discovers that Hyrule is watched over by the four Spirits of Light, whose power was stolen by shadow beasts, causing entire regions to fall into Twilight. To cleanse these lands, he must gather Tears of Light from shadow creatures, restoring the stolen energy and reviving each spirit. Once a spirit is renewed, the twilight over that region is lifted, Link regains his human form, and he and Midna are told where to find a hidden fused shadow, the ancient relics tied to the lost power of the interlopers, a power they need in order to stand against Zant. Along the way, Link rescues the children of Ordon Village and aids the monkeys of Faron, the Gorons of Eldin, and the Zoras of Lanayru. After Link and Midna restore the light spirits and collect the fused shadows, Zant suddenly attacks and steals the relics from them. He reveals that his strength comes from a greater power, then uses said power to keep Link trapped in his wolf form while leaving Midna gravely wounded. In desperation, Link brings her to Zelda, who sacrifices her own life force to save Midna, as she disappears. Before fading away, Zelda tells Link to seek the Master Sword, the only weapon able to lift the curse. Once Link claims the Master Sword, the curse forcing him to remain in wolf form is broken. He and Midna then journey into the Gerudo Desert in search of the Mirror of Twilight, the only passage between Hyrule and the Twilight Realm, only to find it shattered. The sages there explain that Zant attempted to destroy it but succeeded only in breaking it into pieces, since only the true ruler of the Twili had the power to completely erase it. They also reveal that the mirror was once used to banish Ganondorf to the Twilight Realm after his execution failed. Link and Midna then set out to recover the missing shards, and after restoring the mirror, the sages disclose that Midna is in fact the rightful ruler of the Twili, having been overthrown and cursed by Zant. When they finally confront him, they learn that Zant gained his power through an alliance with Ganondorf, who sought his help in conquering Hyrule. After Link defeats Zant, Midna reclaims the fused shadows and kills him, although it's revealed that only Ganondorf's downfall can truly break her curse. Upon learning this, Link and Midna make their way back to Hyrule Castle to face Ganondorf. He first battles Link by taking control of Zelda's body, then assumes the form of a massive boar-like monster, but Link overcomes him with the help of his wolf form. The power Zelda gave to Midna allows Zelda to be revived, and together Link and Zelda launch their final assault. Zelda's light arrows leave Ganondorf vulnerable, and Link strikes the finishing blow with the Master Sword, finally breaking Midna's curse. In the end, Midna returns to her people and destroys the Mirror of Twilight, sealing the Twilight Realm away forever, leaving Hyrule to recover. Centuries after Ganondorf's death, relations between Hyrule and the Gerudo had healed and the kingdom appeared to be entering a lasting time of peace. But in time, a new Ganondorf was born among the Gerudo. After violating Gerudo law and entering a pyramid in the Desert of Doubt, Ganondorf discovers his iconic trident. He later steals the Dark Mirror from the Temple of Darkness, an artifact that once imprisoned a tribe that had invaded Hyrule long ago. The mirror could reflect the evil within a person's heart and bring forth demonic beings. Using its power, Ganondorf planned to free the ancient sorcerer Vati from the Four Sword and also created Shadow Link, a dark duplicate of Link. As a dark presence began to loom over Hyrule, Princess Zelda grew concerned that the seal on the Four Sword was starting to fail. She called for Link and the Six Maidens to help open a passage and examine it, but Shadow Link suddenly appears, traps Zelda and the maidens inside a dark crystal, and flees into the sanctuary. Link pursues the figure and is deceived into drawing the Four Sword, which splits him into four versions of himself and shatters Vati's seal. The four heroes then journey across a Hyrule thrown into turmoil, where villages have been burned and the land has been twisted by darkness. Together, they gather Force Gems, strengthen the Four Sword, and rescue the imprisoned maidens. Along the way, they discover that they need the royal jewels, once borne by the Knights of Hyrule, to reach the heavenly realm where Zelda was being held, all while gradually uncovering the deeper truth behind the Dark Mirror. After the four Links rescue Zelda, defeat Shadow Link, and overcome Vati, Ganondorf reveals himself as the true enemy. He abducts Zelda once again and transforms into Ganon for the final battle. With the combined power of Zelda and the Six Maidens, Ganon is sealed inside the Four Sword. The four Links then become one again, and the blade is locked away behind a powerful barrier so that no one can ever draw it again. The adult timeline follows the version of events, where the hero of time is no longer in Hyrule after Zelda sends him back to the past at the conclusion of Ocarina of Time. In this branch, Ganondorf is imprisoned in the Tainted Sacred Realm, where he remains sealed with the Triforce of Power. The Triforce of Wisdom stays with Zelda, while the Triforce of Courage is left behind when Link departs, as it breaks into 8 pieces that are scattered throughout Hyrule. Zelda also restores the Master Sword to the Temple of Time. This timeline includes the stories of the Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, and Spirit Tracks. Following Link's departure, the seal cast by the 6 sages began to fail for reasons no one understood. In time, the sorcerer broke free from his prison in the form of Ganon. Once released, he set out to fulfill his vow of revenge against the descendants of the Hero of Time and the sages, while still wielding the Triforce of Power. As darkness spread across Hyrule, its people prayed for the hero's return, but he never came, because Link and the companions of his age were gone. With no one left to stand against him, Ganon was able to seize control of Hyrule once more. King Daphnes no Hansen Hyrule, ruler of Hyrule at the time, tried to use his own magical power to halt Ganon's advance, but he was unable to stop him. With no other path, the king and his people turned in desperation to the 3 golden goddesses for help. Their prayers were answered, and the goddesses commanded the chosen people to escape to the mountaintops. After the people reached safety, the goddesses sent a massive flood that swallowed Hyrule, leaving only the mountaintops above the water as islands in what became known as the Great Sea. Daphnes chose to stay behind with the kingdom as it was lost beneath the waves. Before the end, he divided the Triforce of Wisdom into 2 pieces, keeping one below the sea with himself and entrusting the other to his daughter, the princess, who went on to live in the new world above. By the time the goddesses flooded Hyrule, Ganon's forces had already made their way into Hyrule Castle. To preserve the kingdom from being ruined by the sea, the goddesses enclosed it within a magical pocket of air beneath the waters. They also placed an enchantment on the Master Sword and the Pedestal of Time, halting time across all of the drowned Kingdom of Hyrule. As a result, Ganon's army and the kingdom itself were left suspended in a frozen moment as all color was stripped from the land. In the ages that followed, the people of Hyrule created a new society amongst the Great Sea. As time passed, memories of the original kingdom lying beneath the ocean gradually faded from common knowledge. Even so, the tale of the Hero of Time endured and continued to live on in legend. Centuries later, in the Age of the Great Sea, Ganondorf emerged once more into the world above. In his attempt to recover the Triforce of Wisdom, he ordered the Helmeric King, a huge and terrifying bird, to abduct young girls with pointed ears, believing that one of them might be Zelda. As the Link of that era is celebrating his coming of age, a massive bird suddenly drops the pirate captain Tetra into the forest on Outset Island, his home. After Link saves her from a group of monsters, the same bird snatches away his sister, Aryll. Tetra then agrees to help Link rescue his sister, and together they travel to the Forsaken Fortress, where the Helmeric King has been bringing the kidnapped girls. Link manages to find Aryll and the other captives, but the Helmeric King seizes him and delivers him to Ganondorf, who commands that Link be cast into the sea. Link is saved near Windfall Island by the King of Red Lions, a mysterious talking boat. This remarkable vessel becomes Link's means of traveling between the islands scattered across the ocean. Wise, kind, and noble in spirit, the King of Red Lions guides Link by explaining the danger unfolding around him and telling him what he must do to rescue his little sister Aryll and stand against Ganondorf. Link demonstrates that he is worthy of becoming a hero by recovering the 3 goddess pearls and overcoming the trials set by the goddesses. Each pearl carries the symbol of one of the golden goddesses, and serves as a key to revealing the way to the Tower of the Gods, which rests beneath the waters over sunken Hyrule. After obtaining them, Link places the pearls upon the 3 statues on the Triangle Islands, and this causes the sacred tower to rise from the sea. After the path to Hyrule is revealed, Link enters Hyrule Castle and takes the Master Sword from its pedestal. Later, with help from Tetra and her pirate crew, he succeeds in rescuing his sister. Even so, he cannot overcome Ganondorf, because the Master Sword no longer has the sacred power to drive back evil after Ganondorf slew the sages of Earth and Wind. Link and Tetra manage to flee and return to Hyrule, where the King of Red Lions reveals it is actually Daphne's No Hansen Hyrule. He then restores the Triforce of Wisdom by reuniting its pieces, the other half having been carried by Tetra, who then awakens to her true identity as Princess Zelda. Tetra stays behind in the castle as Link and the king set out to find the successors of the two sages. Link awakens Medli of the Rito and Makar of the Koroks as the new sages, then escorts them through the Earth and Wind temples so they can restore the blade's sacred strength. Although the Master Sword regains its power, the king realizes that Ganon has left the Forsaken Fortress and worries that he may strike elsewhere. Link then searches for the 8 scattered pieces of the Triforce of Courage left behind by the Hero of Time, and when he reunites them, the gods acknowledge him as the Hero of Winds. When Link returns to Hyrule, he finds that Ganondorf has abducted Zelda and brought her to the top of Ganon's tower. Link follows them there, and the completed Triforce is finally brought together. Before Ganondorf can use it, the King of Hyrule appears and makes his own wish, that the goddesses erase both Ganondorf and the old Kingdom of Hyrule, while giving Link and Tetra the chance to build a future of their own. As the waters surge around them, Link and Tetra fight Ganondorf using the Master Sword and enchanted arrows. In the end, Link strikes the final blow and Ganondorf is turned to stone. Link and Tetra then escape to the surface while the king and ancient Hyrule disappear beneath the sea. After reuniting with their companions, they set sail in search of a new land. Sometime afterward, in the era of the Great Voyage, Link is traveling with Tetra and her pirate crew as they pursue a mysterious ghost ship said to be behind a string of disappearances near the surrounding islands. When they finally encounter it, Tetra climbs aboard to investigate and vanishes without warning. Link attempts to go after her, but he is thrown into the sea and ends up stranded in another place. There, he is aided by Ciela, a fairy who has lost her memories, and an elderly man named Oshus. In order to find the ghost ship and save Tetra, they enlist the help of Captain Linebeck, the hesitant master of the steamboat SS Linebeck, who agrees to help only because he hopes to find treasure on the journey. The journey eventually brings them to the Temple of the Ocean King, a dangerous place tainted by an evil power that slowly saps the life of anyone who enters. Link is able to withstand the curse by using the Phantom Hourglass and the magical sands of hours it contains, all while uncovering signs connected to the spirits of power, wisdom, and courage. In time, Link learns that Ciela is in fact the spirit of courage. Oshus then reveals that she lost her memory after Bellum attacked her. Bellum is a monstrous squid-like being driven by malice. Long ago, he emerged and began feeding on the life force possessed by all living creatures. Oshus confronted him and tried to fight back, but Bellum proved too powerful. In the end, Oshus was sealed away at the bottom of the Temple of the Ocean King as Bellum preyed upon his life force. Bellum then transformed that stolen energy into the Sands of Hours, using it to create monsters meant to imprison the fairies of power, wisdom, and courage. He also brought the ghost ship into existence, spreading tales of hidden treasure aboard it so he could lure unsuspecting people in and steal even more life force. Oshus then reveals that he is actually the Ocean King. He explains that both he and Ciela assume their current forms in order to stay hidden from Bellum, who had made his home deep within the temple. With the aid of the 3 spirits, Link manages to rescue Tetra, but discovers that Bellum's powers have transformed her into stone as another result of its life-draining curse. To bring Bellum down once and for all, Link gathers 3 rare pure metals from across the islands and uses them to forge the Phantom Sword. Armed with this blade, he is able to defeat Bellum at last. Once Bellum is destroyed, the curse is broken, the Phantom Hourglass runs out, and its remaining sand pours back into the sea. Oshus then departs in his true whale-like form alongside the spirits. Link and Tetra return to their crew to find that almost no time seems to have passed, but the now empty hourglass in Link's possession and the sight of Linebeck's ship on the horizon proves that their journey was, indeed, real. In time, Link and Tetra's pirate crew found a new continent. Across this land ran the Spirit Tracks, all leading toward the Tower of Spirits at its center. Tetra gave this new kingdom the name New Hyrule. The spirit tracks are sacred railways that stretch outward in 4 directions across New Hyrule. Energy flows through them, maintaining the tracks themselves and supplying power to the Tower of Spirits at the heart of the kingdom. That power comes from 4 special temples scattered throughout the land. The tracks extend across every kind of terrain, running through open plains, snowy regions, beneath the sea, and over mountains. The spirit tracks do more than simply allow the people of Hyrule to travel across the land. They also function as a magical seal that keeps the Demon King Malladus imprisoned. Long ago, Malladus was a powerful evil force that threatened the land that later became the new Kingdom of Hyrule. These sacred rails were created by the spirits of good, divine beings who are never directly seen but are frequently spoken of. Situated at the center of Hyrule's 5 realms, the Tower of Spirits was created through the power of the spirits of good. It acts as the seal on Malladus's prison, with the Demon King only able to be released through the altar in the tower's highest chamber. Anjean, an ancient Locomo who serves the spirits, watches over the tower as its sage, and is charged with protecting it from evil. The tower is also guarded by phantoms, whose role is to prevent anyone with malicious intent from reaching the top. The Locomo are a people devoted to serving the spirits of good. Their main duty is to safeguard the land of New Hyrule, protect the spirit tracks, and watch over the temples spread across the kingdom. A century following the discovery of this new continent, the spirit tracks start vanishing, prompting Link, now a royal engineer, and Princess Zelda, a descendant of Tetra, to travel to the Tower of Spirits to uncover the cause. On the way, Chancellor Cole and Bayern derail their train. Cole, who had served as Zelda's advisor, reveals his true nature as a demon seeking to bring Malladus back from his imprisonment. With Bayern's help, Zelda's spirit is torn from her body, which is then taken to the top of the Tower of Spirits so it can serve as Malladus's vessel. After this, the tower is shattered into floating sections. Link and Princess Zelda's spirit journey to 4 temples in order to restore both the spirit tracks and the Tower of Spirits. When they finally reach the top of the tower, they arrive too late to prevent Malladus from taking over Zelda's body. They then chase him into the Dark Realm, a shadowy dimension linked to New Hyrule. Using the Bow of Light and the Locomo Sword, 2 powerful weapons gained during their quest, they are able to defeat both Malladus and Chancellor Cole. Zelda is reunited with her body, peace is restored to New Hyrule, and the Locomo sages, their duty fulfilled, ascend to the heavens. The Fallen Hero Timeline is the branch of the Zelda chronology where Link, the hero of time, fails to defeat Ganondorf in their final confrontation. After winning, Ganondorf takes the Triforce pieces held by Link and Zelda, but is eventually sealed by the 7 sages inside the corrupted Sacred Realm. This timeline includes, in order, A Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, A Link Between Worlds, Triforce Heroes, Echoes of Wisdom, The Legend of Zelda, and The Adventure of Link. When Ganondorf claims the full Triforce after defeating Link, he is transformed into Ganon, the Dark Beast, before being sealed away in the Sacred Realm. After making his wish to conquer the world, the Sacred Realm is warped by his greed into the Dark World, a distorted counterpart to Hyrule. Over the next few years, the greedy and weak-minded were lured into the Dark Realm, becoming monsters. These creatures poured out of the Dark World and launched an assault on Hyrule. In response, the king commanded the 7 sages to close off the path to the Dark World. The Knights of Hyrule fought beside them in the conflict, later known as the Imprisoning War. Though the knights were almost completely destroyed holding back the enemy, their sacrifice gave the sages enough time to finish the seal. With the gateway shut and the threat contained, Hyrule celebrated its hard-won victory. Because the struggle for control of the Sacred Realm demanded so many lives and so much material, the Imprisoning War left Hyrule weakened and in poverty. After the Imprisoning War, Hyrule entered the era of Light and Dark. Long after the war, the sorcerer Aghanim seized control of the kingdom by enchanting Hyrule's soldiers, killing the king and sending 6 maidens, heirs to the 7 sages, into the Dark World. One night, Link, the final heir of Hyrule's knights, is stirred awake by Princess Zelda's telepathic cry for help, after Aghanim imprisons her in the dungeon beneath Hyrule Castle. His uncle sets out to save her, but Link arrives to find him dying. Before passing, his uncle entrusts Link with his sword and shield. Link then makes his way into the castle, frees Zelda, and brings her to safety in the Sanctuary, a location where a loyal sage lives just north of the castle. At the Sanctuary, a dying priest reveals the true threat. Aghanim plans to shatter the seal holding back Ganon, the ancient evil imprisoned in the Dark World. The only blade capable of stopping him is the Master Sword, but Link can obtain it only by first gathering 3 sacred pendants. After securing them, Link claims the legendary sword, only to return and find that Zelda has been captured and sent into the Dark World. Link overcomes Aghanim, but is drawn into the Dark World himself, where he must save the descendants of the 7 sages to prevent disaster. After confronting Aghanim one more time, the sorcerer is finally destroyed before Ganon reveals himself and flees to the Pyramid of Power. Link pursues and defeats him, then takes possession of the Triforce and uses its power to repair the harm that has been done. The dead are brought back to life, those lost in the Dark World are returned home, and peace comes back to Hyrule as Link places the Master Sword back in its pedestal. Afterward, Link sets out by sea to continue his training in faraway lands, but a violent storm wrecks his ship and leaves him stranded on Koholint Island. There he is taken in by Marin, a girl from Mabe Village, and her father Tarin. Marin shares her wish to one day leave the island and soar beyond it like a seagull. Not long after, a mysterious owl tells Link that the only way to return home is to awaken the Windfish, the island's guardian, who sleeps within a huge egg on Mount Tomaranch. To reach it, Link must recover the 8 instruments of the sirens hidden throughout the island's dungeons. As Link journeys through the island's dungeons in search of the instruments, he uncovers unsettling hints about Koholint's true nature. Most striking is a mural in the ancient ruins, suggesting that the island is actually part of a dream imagined by the Windfish. Although the owl warns that this may only be a legend, monsters known as nightmares repeatedly try to stop Link, hoping to keep the Windfish asleep so they can continue controlling the dream. After gathering all 8 instruments, Link ascends Mount Tomaranch and performs the Ballad of the Windfish, opening the Great Egg. He then faces the final nightmare, which shifts through forms tied to his past, including Ganon, before exposing its real appearance as Deathel, a huge, throbbing, one-eyed mass with 2 dark, shadowy arms ending in massive spiked points. After Link defeats the nightmare, the owl reveals itself to be the spirit of the Windfish, who then confirms the truth. Koholint and everyone on it exist only within its dream. Once the Windfish awakens, the island disappears, leaving Link adrift on the remains of his ship beneath the Windfish as it soars across the sky. Sometime after the original defeat of Ganon, Twinrova, regarded as Ganon's surrogate mothers, set out to bring him back to life. Their plan calls for 3 mystical flames, destruction, sorrow, and despair, to be kindled before a final sacrifice could complete the ritual. To set this in motion, they unleash their servants to spread suffering across distant lands, General Onyx on Holodrum and the sorceress Verin on Labrina. When Link, this being a different Link from Link's Awakening, later arrives at Hyrule Castle, the Triforce summons him and sends him to Holodrum, drawing him into another quest. In Holodrum, Onyx abducts Din, a famous dancer, who was secretly the Oracle of Seasons, throwing the natural seasonal cycle into chaos. Link restores order by gathering the 8 essences of nature and wielding the Rod of Seasons to shift the seasons when needed, eventually defeating Onyx and saving Din. Even so, the destruction caused was enough to ignite the Flame of Destruction. Link was then summoned to Labrina, where Verin deceives him through Impa and takes control of Nehru, the Oracle of Ages. Using Nehru's power over time, Verin manipulated the past and drove Queen Ambi to construct the foreboding Black Tower. With the Harp of Ages, Link travels between past and present, collecting the 8 essences of time, and ultimately overcomes Verin, but not before the Flame of Sorrow is kindled. To ignite the last flame, Twinrova abducts Princess Zelda to use her as the final sacrifice, but Link defeats the sisters before they can complete the ritual. In desperation, they offer their own lives instead, and succeed in reviving Ganon, though only imperfectly. He returns as a mindless, savage beast rather than his true self. Link defeats him, peace is restored to Holodrum and Labrina, and he later sails away from Labrina by boat. Sometime after Link's journey through Holodrum and Labrina, the Triforce became divided. Though Ganon had been sealed away in darkness after his defeat, he still possessed the Triforce of power within that prison. The whereabouts of the Triforce of Courage, however, were uncertain, with legends saying it was concealed within the spirit of the eternal hero. Centuries later, a different Link, who is a young blacksmith's apprentice in Hyrule, brings a sword to Hyrule Castle and sees the sorcerer Yuga transform Ceres, one of the descendants of the Seven Sages, into a living painting. Link tries to stop him but is defeated. Soon after, a strange merchant named Ravio offers his help, lending Link a bracelet and several items before urging him to warn Princess Zelda about Yuga's threat. Zelda tells Link that he must recover 3 sacred pendants in order to claim the Master Sword and protect Hyrule. During this journey, Link briefly overpowers Yuga, but the sorcerer curses him into a painting. Ravio's bracelet absorbs the spell, however, and grants Link the ability to merge into walls and travel along them like a painting. Using his new power, Link gathers the remaining pendants, obtains the Master Sword, and returns just in time to witness Yuga trap Zelda inside a painting before fleeing through a dimensional rift to Lorule, Hyrule's ruined counterpart. In that broken parallel world, Yuga uses the imprisoned sages to revive Ganon and then fuses with him. Lorule's Princess Hilda comes to Link's aid and guides him across the kingdom to save the 7 descendants of the sages. After they are rescued, their united strength awakens the Triforce of Courage within Link. At Lorule Castle, Hilda finally reveals her motives. In ages past, Lorule's royal family destroyed their own Triforce to end a civil war, but without it, the kingdom slowly fell into ruin. To save her world, she planned to take Hyrule's Triforce and had manipulated Link into recovering the Triforce of Courage for her. Before she can succeed, Yuga turns on her in order to claim the full Triforce himself. Link defeats Yuga, rescues both princesses, and learns that Ravio is Lorule's counterpart to him. Ravio and Hilda then resolve to restore their kingdom together, while Link and Zelda return to Hyrule and use their Triforce to bring Lorule's back, giving the land renewed hope and stability. Following his adventure in Lorule, Link departs from Hyrule and journeys to the nearby kingdom of Hytopia, where he is recruited by the Witch Hunting Brigade to take down the wicked witch Lady Maud. Lady Maud has cursed Princess Styla of Hytopia with an embarrassing spell that traps her in a plain brown outfit she cannot remove. To lift this curse, Link joins forces with 2 look-alike heroes, and together they set out to recover the scattered pieces of the Ladies' Ensemble, a magical outfit connected to Maud's power. After recovering most of the outfit, the heroes defeat Lady Maud and claim the last missing piece. Maud's younger sister, Madame Kotor, then combines the pieces to complete the Ladies' Ensemble. Once Princess Styla receives the finished set, the curse is broken and she is released from the plain brown jumpsuit. Sometime after the events in Hytopia, a new Link is trying to rescue Princess Zelda from Ganon when he is pulled into a strange rift and disappears into the Still World, a hidden realm where most people are left in a motionless, speechless, trance-like state. Link and Zelda, however, appear to be unaffected by this condition. Before long, similar rifts begin appearing throughout Hyrule, pulling in more victims, including the King of Hyrule and his advisors, General Wright and Minister Lefty. When Zelda returns to the castle, she discovers what seems to be the king and his council, but they are actually imposters who blame her for the calamities and throw her into the dungeon to await execution. With help from the fairy Tri, Zelda escapes, receives the Tri-Rod, and begins a journey to mend the rifts and save the people taken by them. As Zelda continues her quest, she discovers that even some of her foes are only imitations. She first faces a false Link, then later saves the real one after defeating a supposed Ganon in Hyrule Castle, but this Ganon turns out to be merely an echo created by the true enemy, Null, an ancient being capable of producing living copies. After Zelda restores the shrines of the Golden Goddesses, they reveal Null's origin. It comes from the primordial void that existed before the world was created and seeks to erase all existence by breaking free and returning everything to nothingness. According to the goddesses, the world itself was made to contain Null, and the Tris were sent to repair the rifts whenever it attempted to tear creation apart. Null's final goal is to claim the prime energy connected to the Triforce. To do this, it sends a false Zelda after Link's portion of the power, but because Null is inherently unbalanced, it first obtains only the Triforce of power, while Wisdom passes to Zelda and Courage remains connected to Link through a rift. Zelda defeats her duplicate, Zelda rescues Link, and the two join forces to defeat Null. After that, the completed Triforce allows the Tris to heal the damage caused by Null and return to the Golden Goddesses. After the Triforce is restored in Echoes of Wisdom, Hyrule enters a prosperous golden era. With the completed Triforce in their hands, generations of Hyrule's kings ruled over a thriving kingdom. In time, however, one of the kings grows doubtful that his son is worthy to inherit such power. To protect it, he conceals the Triforce of Courage within the Great Palace. Before dying, he places a spell over Hyrule so that a mark will someday appear on a young man destined to wield it, and he entrusts the secret of its location to his daughter, Princess Zelda. The Prince of Hyrule then takes the throne, but only inherits the Triforce of Power and the Triforce of Wisdom. With the help of a magician, he pressures Zelda to reveal where their father hid the missing Triforce. When she refuses, the magician casts her into an endless slumber. Horrified by what has happened, the new king lays her upon an altar in North Castle and orders that every princess born into the royal family thereafter be named Zelda, with the sleeping princess later remembered as Zelda the First. Though the king deeply regrets his actions and rules as well as he can, Hyrule declines without the complete Triforce. The kingdom weakens, its borders shrink, and only the Triforce of Power and Wisdom continue to be passed down through the royal line, while the Triforce of Courage eventually fades into legend. Hyrule is thrown into turmoil once more when Ganon attacks and seizes the Triforce of Power. To prevent him from claiming the Triforce of Wisdom as well, Princess Zelda, a descendant of Zelda the First, divides it into 8 pieces and conceals them within perilous underground dungeons. Before Ganon can abduct her, she sends her nursemaid Impa to seek out a courageous hero capable of rescuing the kingdom. While searching for aid, Impa is ambushed by Ganon's followers, but a young warrior named Link comes to her rescue and vows to oppose the evil threatening Hyrule. He journeys across the kingdom, braving 8 maze-like dungeons, defeating their monstrous guardians, and reclaiming the scattered shards of the Triforce of Wisdom until it is restored. Armed with its power, Link enters Ganon's lair on Death Mountain, defeats him, and recovers the Triforce of Power. He then brings both sacred relics back to Zelda, and Hyrule is finally returned to peace. Years after his first quest, Link, now 16, discovers a mysterious crest on the back of his left hand, the same mark tied to Hyrule's royal line. He goes to Impa, who leads him to North Castle, where a magically sealed door has remained unopened for ages. When Link places his marked hand against it, the seal is broken, revealing the long-sleeping Zelda the First beneath an ancient enchantment. Impa reveals the history of this Zelda and explains that the mark on Link's hand proves he is the chosen hero destined to break Zelda's curse. She entrusts him with 6 crystals and an ancient manuscript that only one worthy of great power can read, yet Link understands it at once. The text reveals that the crystals must be placed in 6 palaces throughout Hyrule to unlock the Great Palace, where the Triforce of Courage is hidden. Only by reuniting all 3 pieces of the Triforce can Zelda be awakened. While Ganon's followers pursue Link in hopes of using the blood to revive their master, he journeys across the kingdom, restores the crystals, defeats the guardians of the Great Palace, and conquers his own shadow. At last, he claims the Triforce of Courage, reunites the complete Triforce, and awakens Zelda from her long slumber. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Hyrule Warriors' Age of Imprisonment are understood to occur at the far end of one of the 3 timeline branches, but the developers have deliberately left the exact branch unspecified. By the time of Breath of the Wild, the events of earlier eras have largely passed into legend. As a result, which timeline these games belong to is left open to player interpretation. This era of Hyrule's lore is filled with legends that, from an outside perspective, resemble events from across the series. However, it is impossible to know which of those tales are distorted memories of real history shaped by time and human error, and which are simply myths that happen to resemble events from one of Hyrule's alternate timelines. Long before Hyrule was established, during the era of the Wilds, the Zonai descended from the Sky Islands, floating lands high above the kingdom. To the people below, they seemed almost divine, especially because of the extraordinary power granted to them by the secret stones, entrusted to their care by the goddess Hylia. The Zonai are an ancient people, said to have come from the heavens, with legends even describing them as descendants of the gods. Their appearance is distinctly animal-like, somewhat resembling hyenas with very long ears, dark gray fur, and flowing white manes. We will discuss them more in the races section of the video. After descending to the surface, the Zonai settled in the Faron region, southeast of Hyrule Kingdom. The secret stones are ancient, teardrop-shaped relics believed to have been created by the Golden Goddesses, and later entrusted to the Zonai by Hylia, who would eventually bring them to Hyrule. Their main function is to enhance the natural abilities of whoever wields them. When held by someone with a special gift, a secret stone takes on an attribute and matching Zonai inscription tied to that person's power. If the stone passes to a new bearer, those qualities can change as well. One day, Sonia, a Hylian priestess born in Hyrule, marries a Zonai leader named Rauru, and together they found this era's Kingdom of Hyrule. Soon after establishing the kingdom, King Rauru and Queen Sonia create the Shrines of Light to defend it from monsters by sealing the creatures away so they cannot return. At this point in history, a version of Zelda appears after accidentally traveling back from the future. Rauru and Sonia find her and take her in as their own. Also during this age, a new Ganondorf is born and rises to become King of the Gerudo. He first tries to conquer Hyrule through open force, but the assault is repelled when Rauru, Sonia, and Zelda use their sacred powers to defeat his Molduga army. Afterward, Ganondorf came to Hyrule with a Gerudo delegation and formally swore loyalty to King Rauru. Although Rauru and his court saw through the act, Ganondorf continued undermining the kingdom by using his magic to manipulate events through a false image of Zelda. During a blood moon, he used that illusion to isolate both Sonia and the real princess, then struck down Queen Sonia and stole her secret stone. With its power, Ganondorf transformed into the Demon King, unleashing vast energy and raising a massive army of monsters to wage war on Hyrule. Rauru used the light of his own sacred stone to protect Zelda and the fatally wounded Sonia from the attack, but the force of the Demon King's gloom overwhelmed them, forcing the survivors to escape to the Forgotten Temple. Gloom is a dangerous, sludge-like substance with a red and black appearance that saps the life force of anyone it touches. In some cases, the harm it causes can be lasting, though milder exposure can sometimes be reversed under the right circumstances. It may also be connected to a form of blood magic. Gloom can be easily mistaken with a similar substance known as malice, but they are not technically the same. Malice is the toxic, physical embodiment of Calamity Ganon's hatred and corrupting influence. It appears as a tar-like, smoky substance that spreads through locations and machinery like a blight. Visually, it looks like dark purple-black sludge pulsing with sinister energy and giving off drifting fumes, often marked by writhing eyes known as malice eyes that behave like living watchers. The war that followed the death of Queen Sonia was later remembered as the Imprisoning War and became a fierce struggle to preserve Hyrule. Rauru gathered the leaders of the Gorons, Rito, Zora, and Gerudo, the Gerudo having been abandoned by Ganondorf after his rise as the Demon King. Together with Mineru, who is Rauru's sister, and Zelda, these leaders each received a secret stone, swore loyalty to Rauru, and became the Sages. Though they proved unable to destroy Ganondorf, Rauru succeeded in sealing him away by giving up his own life, bringing the war to an end. Not long afterward, while at the Temple of Time, Zelda encountered a ruined Master's Sword that had somehow arrived from the future. Having learned from the Great Deku Tree that the blade could be restored through sacred power, she understood what she had to do. By swallowing a secret stone, she transformed into the Light Dragon, one of the eternal dragons soaring above Hyrule, and carried the Master Sword in her forehead so it could slowly heal over countless ages. About 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild, Hyrule entered a prosperous age as the Sheikah, also called the Shadowfolk, who were a branch of the Hylians, developed an extraordinarily advanced civilization whose wisdom and technology had protected the kingdom more than once. Around the same era, Calamity Ganon, a being of pure hatred, rose to threaten Hyrule. Foreseeing this danger, the people of Hyrule prepared in advance. The Sheikah created a vast force of ancient machines called Guardians to support an unnamed hero and princess, while 4 enormous divine beasts served as their most powerful weapons. A Guardian is an ancient Sheikah weapon that resembles a spider-like war machine made of pale stone and metal. Its rounded body is marked with fine paneling and faint blue patterns that seem almost holy when inactive, but deeply unsettling once it turns hostile. It moves on 6 long, segmented legs with sharp, precise motions, and at its front is a single large eye that swivels as it searches for targets. When it attacks, it fixes a thin aiming beam on its prey as a mechanical whine rises, then unleashes a powerful burst of energy. The divine beasts are 4 enormous mechanical creatures, each controlled by a champion from a different region of the land. Vah Ruta is modeled after an elephant and is tied to the power of water. Its movable trunk can release an endless stream, and it is even able to send water into its own interior, turning a large water wheel that opens the way to higher areas inside the beast. Vah Rudania is shaped like a salamander and aligned with the element of fire. Near each of its legs are 4 compartments that house guardian sentries. Like a real salamander, it can climb straight up vertical surfaces, and when it does, the inside of the beast rotates by 90 degrees. Vah Meadow is modeled after an eagle and aligned with the power of wind. For defense, it is protected by a barrier generated by 4 devices positioned on each wing, near the head and near the tail. Its central wing section can angle from side to side, a function that helps it maneuver in flight while also shifting the orientation of its interior. The main control unit sits on the upper deck between the wings. Vah Naboris is a divine beast shaped like a camel and aligned with the power of lightning. Its 2 humps function as massive electrical generators that help defend it. Inside, the structure is divided into 3 separate cylinders, and each one can turn a full 360 degrees. The current incarnations of Zelda and Link at the time seal away Calamity Ganon by joining forces with the Guardians, the Divine Beasts, and the champions who command them. After achieving victory, Hyrule's king, alarmed by the overwhelming destructive power of the present Sheikah technologies, ordered all continued study and advancement to cease. The divine beasts were then hidden underground, and over time, they faded into legend. Later, a radical group within the Sheikah, bitter over the royal family's decision to suppress and bury their technology, broke away and formed the Yiga clan, pledging themselves to Ganon. As the Sheikah dispersed and many turned their backs on their inventions, Hyrule gradually regressed over the centuries into a far more primitive society. 9,883 years later, after the calamity was sealed away, another princess was born and given the name Zelda, following royal custom. At around the same time, a prophecy foretold of Calamity Ganon's return. In response, King Roam Bosphorus Hyrule ended the prohibition on Sheikah technology and renewed ties with the clan. Trying to follow the example of those who came before them, Hyrule's people set out to uncover the buried divine beasts and guardians, eventually repairing them and bringing them back online. 4 individuals, one from each of Hyrule's races, were then chosen to control the divine beasts. Not long after, the Master Sword's wielder was identified as Link, a Hylian knight and the only person capable of drawing the blade from its pedestal in Korok Forest. Together, Link and the 4 pilots became known as the Champions. The last essential element in defeating Calamity Ganon was the sacred sealing power passed down through Hyrule's royal line. After the queen died, that responsibility rested entirely on Zelda as the only remaining heir to that power. Because of this, King Rome insisted that she devote herself to unlocking her sacred abilities. After his previous loss, Calamity Ganon adapted by creating 4 spectral forms tied to fire, water, lightning, and wind. He sent each one to seize a divine beast and slay its champion, and they succeeded. Ganon then spread his malice throughout the Guardians, taking command of them and turning Hyrule's own machines against the kingdom. Stripped of its greatest defenses, Hyrule fell into ruin. Hyrule's allied peoples escaped the worst of the disaster. Ganon concentrated his assault on central Hyrule, the core of the kingdom, and although the Guardians spread across much of the realm, they never launched attacks on the lands of the Gerudo, Rito, or Gorons. During the chaos, Link was gravely wounded while defending Zelda, and as a result he was placed in the Shrine of Resurrection, where he remained asleep for a century. After awakening her sealing power while escaping the Guardians, Zelda returned the Master Sword to Korok Forest. She then faced Calamity Ganon by herself and succeeded in containing him, but only by trapping herself within the seal to keep it in place, since Ganon could not be fully sealed while still unharmed by the Master Sword. A century after entering magical slumber in the Shrine of Resurrection, Link awakens in a Hyrule, devastated by Calamity Ganon, with his memories gone. He is initially guided by an old man who later reveals himself to be the spirit of King Rome. Rome tells Link that Ganon remains confined within Hyrule Castle, but his power is steadily increasing, and pleads with him to defeat Ganon before he escapes and brings ruin to what is left of the world. Link meets Impa, an elder of the Sheikah, who urges him to liberate the 4 divine beasts. As he journeys through Hyrule, he regains pieces of his memory and, aided by allies along the way, enters each divine beast to defeat the Blight Ganon within. With each victory, the spirit of a fallen champion is freed to retake their beast and bestow Link with additional power. After obtaining the Master Sword, Link makes his way into Hyrule Castle to face Ganon. The divine beasts help by reducing his strength, and when Ganon takes on the giant form of Dark Beast Ganon, Zelda entrusts Link with the Bow of Light to end the battle and give her the chance to seal him away. With Ganon defeated, peace is restored, the spirits of the king and the champions pass on, and Zelda announces that Hyrule's restoration must begin. Several years after Calamity Ganon is defeated, Link and Zelda explore a cavern beneath Hyrule Castle to investigate a poisonous substance known as gloom, which is spreading illness among the people. Far below, they uncover ancient murals describing Hyrule's founding and a past struggle called the Imprisoning War, waged against a being referred to as the Demon King. Zelda links these discoveries to the enigmatic Zonai. Deeper in the cavern, they come upon a mummified figure held in place by a mysterious arm. When it stirs, it wounds Link, destroys the Master Sword, and sets off the upheaval. In the chaos, Zelda falls into the depths along with a secret stone and is sent back to the distant past, setting the earlier events we discussed into motion. The upheaval dramatically alters Hyrule, opening caves, lifting Hyrule Castle into the sky, and creating chasms that lead down into the depths. Fragments from the floating islands also rain down across the land, scattering constructs and Zonai devices throughout the kingdom. Gloom began to gather around the chasms as another consequence of the disaster. In the aftermath, people discovered many unfamiliar monsters, plants, fungi, animals, and resources, all of which brought major changes to both Hyrule's landscape and daily life. Link is rescued by Rauru's arm, a Zonai limb imbued with his power that had long been holding Ganondorf beneath Hyrule Castle since the era of the Imprisoning War. When the seal breaks during the upheaval, the arm is released, saves Link's life, and takes the place of his severely injured right arm. From then on, it serves as the source of Link's Zonai abilities and allows Rauru's spirit to speak with him and offer guidance. Link awakens on the Great Sky Island and is guided by Rauru. After returning to the surface, he joins his allies in looking into a series of unusual disasters affecting different regions, each connected to ancient Zonai temples. Working together, they overcome powerful monsters, recover secret stones, and encounter the spirits of the original sages, who recognize Link's companions as the new sages. Later, Link discovers that repeated appearances of Zelda he's been seeing are part of a deception. The Zelda scene at the castle is actually an illusion created by Phantom Ganon, a servant of Ganondorf, the revived mummy and the true Demon King. During his journey, Link also finds Mineru, the last of the ancient sages who endures as a spirit and eventually takes form within an artificial body. Link eventually discovers that Zelda's journey through time ended with her transforming into the Light Dragon. He then clears the gloom-corrupting Korok Forest and the Great Deku Tree, reclaims the restored Master Sword from the Light Dragon, and descends beneath Hyrule Castle to face Ganondorf. When Ganondorf transforms into the Demon Dragon, Link, supported by the Light Dragon and the new sages, destroys his secret stone and defeats him. In the aftermath, the spirits of Rauru and Sonia restore Zelda and return Link's arm to normal before passing on, and Mineru also bids farewell as the sages pledge to safeguard Hyrule. We will now delve into the settings, races, and characters that define the Legend of Zelda series, beginning with a deep dive into the Kingdom of Hyrule. Often referred to simply as Hyrule, the kingdom is the central fantasy realm that serves as the primary setting throughout the Legend of Zelda series. It is typically portrayed as a thriving and picturesque land, rich with dense forests, towering mountains, expansive lakes, harsh deserts, bustling towns and cities, and countless ancient temples hidden across the kingdom. Hyrule is portrayed as a polytheistic culture, with the three golden goddesses standing above all other divine figures in importance. They are revered as the creators of Hyrule and of the people who inhabit it. The people of Hyrule also honor the powers and virtues of these goddesses through the Triforce, the sacred relic they left behind. At pivotal moments in Hyrule's history, the goddesses have intervened in response to the people's prayers, such as when they flooded the kingdom to protect it from Ganon, or when they sent the light spirits to seal away the dark interlopers in the Twilight Realm and free Hyrule from their threat. The Golden Goddesses are not the only divine beings honored in Hyrule. Different people across the land revere their own sacred figures as well. The Zora venerate Lord Jabu Jabu as their patron deity and grant him an important place within their culture, while also using the Water Temple in devotion to water spirits. The Kokiri look to the Great Deku Tree as both their guardian and a fatherly presence, holding him in deep respect. The Gerudo worship the enigmatic goddess of the sand, and built the Spirit Temple in her honor. In addition, other beings such as the light spirits are revered as protective deities over the regions they watch. Hyrulean society includes several sacred sites and places of worship. Among them are the temples associated with different elements, each watched over by a sage who serves as the temple's guardian. Hyrule has generally maintained the same monarchical rule throughout its history, with the kingdom being governed by the long-standing royal family of Hyrule. From the capital at Hyrule Castletown, the monarchy oversees the kingdom and its common citizens. The royal family traces its lineage back to the goddess Hylia, who was reborn as the earliest form of Zelda. Over time, the family has included many kings, queens, one known prince of Hyrule, and numerous princesses who bear the name Princess Zelda. Members of this bloodline reside in the different versions of Hyrule Castle throughout history, and they are traditionally laid to rest in places such as the Hyrule Castle Graveyard and the Royal Tomb. The kingdom is generally organized into multiple provinces, and although many races maintain their own local leaders and systems of rule, they ultimately recognize the authority of the royal family and remain part of Hyrule under its central government. Hyrule's landscape differs widely from one area to another. In most versions of the kingdom, it is made up of multiple regions with distinct terrains and climates, often connected by the broad central plain known as Hyrule Field. Hyrule Castletown, along with Hyrule Castle, is typically situated near the middle of the kingdom and close to this open expanse. Although Hyrule's map changes from one game to another, several landmarks are common across the many eras of the kingdom. Death Mountain is one of the most recognizable locations in the series. Usually found in northern Hyrule, though placed in the south in The Adventure of Link, it is a massive active volcano and part of the Elden Mountain range in Twilight Princess. It is closely associated with the Gorons, who live there and carve out many caves through their mining. Kakariko Village is a recurring settlement that first appeared in A Link to the Past. It is often depicted as a modest but thriving town with Sheikah roots. Its condition varies by game, appearing nearly abandoned in Twilight Princess and surviving as a Sheikah community in Breath of the Wild. Lake Hylia is Hyrule's largest freshwater lake and often plays an important role in exploration. It is commonly tied to hidden items, dungeon access, and encounters with the Zora. The Lost Woods is a mysterious forest known for confusing travelers and causing them to wander in circles unless they know the right path. Across the series, it is connected to beings like the Kokiri, Koroks, and fairies, and in some games it is home to the Great Deku Tree and the Master Sword. The Temple of Time is one of the series' most important sacred sites. In Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, it houses the Master Sword and is tied directly to time travel. Other versions appear in Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom, where it continues to play a major role, though the Breath of the Wild version is notable for lacking any direct time travel function. Hyrule's main military force is made up of the Hyrulean soldiers. Although they are tasked with keeping order and defending the kingdom, they are often portrayed as ineffective. Across much of the series, they repeatedly fail to protect Hyrule successfully. While most of these soldiers are stationed in Hyrule Castletown, they can also be found posted throughout the rest of the kingdom. The Knights of Hyrule, sometimes called the Hylian Knights, are the kingdom's most distinguished warriors. Unlike ordinary soldiers, they are known for exceptional skill and courage in battle. Even so, they seldom appear directly in most games and are more often referenced through legends and past events. In many entries in the series, Link is strongly implied to descend from this noble order, which helps explain his extraordinary combat ability and fearless nature. Hyrule's standard form of money is the rupee, a gem-like currency used throughout the kingdom. Rupees come in different colors and sizes to represent their value, though the exact worth of each type can vary between games. More common ones, such as green, blue, and yellow, are generally worth less than rarer varieties like red, purple, orange, silver, or gold. The Hylian alphabet first appeared in A Link to the Past, where it was described as the ancient language of the Hylians and had to be translated by Link in order to advance. Several forms of written Hylian have appeared and been decoded, including versions used in Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, A Link Between Worlds, and Twilight Princess. Other languages also appear in the series, such as the Gerudo language from Ocarina of Time, which resembles Hylian and uses long, flowing characters, and the Sheikah language from Breath of the Wild, which is written with a full set of square-shaped symbols. In this section, we will take a look at other major locations in the world of Zelda that are significant enough to warrant a deeper dive into their history and lore. The Dark World, sometimes called the Evil Realm, is a warped, corrupted dimension that mirrors Hyrule. In contrast to Hyrule being the Light World, it exists as a shadowy parallel realm and is a tainted version of the Sacred Realm. In Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf reaches the Sacred Realm and claims the Triforce from the Temple of Light. Because Ganondorf's heart is driven by greed and malice, the realm warps into the Evil Realm, mirroring his corruption. In A Link to the Past, the Dark World closely mirrors Hyrule's geography, but is altered in striking ways. It features distinct landmarks of its own, most notably the Pyramid of Power at the realm's center. The entire area has a gloomier look and feel as well, with many locations, such as the Village of Outcasts, being run down. The vegetation is dried and brown, and the water has an eerie, greenish tint. Ganon's influence through the Triforce twists the Dark World's residents as well. Humans may become monsters, sentient animal-like beings, or even inanimate forms like trees, and familiar creatures from Hyrule appear more menacing throughout the land. Although the Sacred Realm is known for reshaping itself based on the heart of whoever enters, the Dark World functions differently. It transforms living beings into an outward form that reveals their inner thoughts and character. When Link first arrives via the portal on Death Mountain, he turns into a defenseless rabbit, likely reflecting his innocence and purity. Across Hyrule, various enchanted gateways connect to the Dark World, but they typically are a one-way trip. Drawn by stories of a golden power, many travelers entered the Dark Realm seeking this treasure and ended up stranded there. Link is an exception thanks to the Magic Mirror, which lets Link travel back from the Dark World to the Light World, and it also creates a temporary portal in Hyrule so he can re-enter the Dark World at the same spot he left. In Four Swords Adventures, Link enters and leaves the Dark World through moon gates that only he can perceive because he wields the Four Sword. That blade also lets him spot Dark World residents and items as shadowy outlines while he's still in the Light World. Using these gates can open routes to areas that would otherwise be unreachable. In Tears of the Kingdom, the depths are a vast underground network beneath Hyrule that's uncovered over the course of the narrative. Shrouded in darkness and dotted with pools of gloom, it's widely considered the kingdom's most perilous realm. The creatures down there are tainted by gloom, which makes them far stronger and more lethal than their surface counterparts. The Yiga clan, a group of Sheikah rogues known for assassination and theft, carry out many activities in the depths, where they experiment with Zonai technology and build various machines and vehicles. The depths echo the surface's geography, but with strange inversions. Surface mountains often become deep basins, while rivers and lakes above translate into impassable stone barriers below. As a result, certain regions can only be reached by diving into particular chasms from the surface. Many settlements on the surface also have a counterpart beneath them, usually in the form of an abandoned mine. The Great Sea is an enormous ocean formed when the Golden Goddesses flooded the world, leaving only scattered islands above the surface, remnants of Hyrule's tallest mountaintops rising from the depths below. Long before the events of the Wind Waker, the gods submerged Hyrule to halt Ganon's army when the Hero of Time never came back to defeat it. Those who survived escaped to the highest peaks and rebuilt their lives there. The Great Sea is described as a kind of illusion. It seems like an ordinary ocean, but magic conceals the ruins of ancient Hyrule far below the surface. The water that flooded the land is said to be unnatural, originating from the heavens rather than Hyrule itself, which limits what can thrive there, leaving mainly monsters and fishmen. These strange waters are also tied to major changes among Hyrule's people, such as the Zora evolving into the Rito and the Kokiri transforming into the Koroks. Most islands in the Great Sea have no residents and aren't ruled by any formal authority. Even busy places like Outset and Windfall don't have an official government. Only a few locations are explicitly protected by spiritual guardians: Dragon Roost Island, Forest Haven, and Great Fish Isle, each tied to a notable deity or spirit. Beyond that, some islands are effectively private property, claimed and used by specific individuals. Since the Great Sea rose from the remnants of Hyrule, rupees remain the standard currency and are used across every inhabited island. That said, island life creates a wider variety of commerce than old Hyrule. Roaming merchants keep trade moving by selling directly to travelers and supplying large stores so locals can buy the same goods. Windfall Island also hosts nightly auctions, and Beetle's traveling shopship regularly sails between islands, bringing supplies wherever it docks. Compared to pre-flood Hyrule, the Great Sea features noticeably more advanced weapon technology. Patrol ships can attack targets from far away, though it's unclear whether they're crewed or function independently. There are also stationary bomb cannons positioned on reefs and elevated structures, capable of firing at distant foes and seemingly operating automatically. The Great Sea also includes a range of advanced technology. Examples include the Tingle Tuner, which allows for communication, and the Color Picto Box, used to capture images. It's unclear how advanced Hyrule already was before the flood, so it's hard to say how much knowledge and technology were wiped out when the gods intervened. Holodrum is the setting of Oracle of Seasons, known for its lively scenery and its strong connection to the four seasons. When General Onyx captures Din, the seasons spiral out of control, and the Temple of Seasons is dragged down into the underground world of Subrosia. Holodrum has a wide range of landscapes, much like its neighboring land of Labrina. A continuous mountain chain stretches across the entire northern region. On the western end sits the Tarm Ruins, crowned by the towering Ancient Ruins, said to be the highest spot in the country. Nearby is the shadowy northern peak, where Onyx established his fortress. Farther east are the temple remains, the site where the Temple of Seasons once stood, alongside Goron Mountain, home to the Gorons, and then Mount Kuko at Holodrum's far eastern edge. Mount Kuko is especially important because it supplies much of Holodrum's water. Streams run down from its heights to form a river that cuts across the land and eventually empties into the Spool Swamp in the southwest. The middle of Holodrum is largely made up of open fields and wooded areas, including places like Holodrum Plain, Natsu Prairie, North Horon, and the Woods of Winter to the east. Horon Village, the main human town, sits in the south-central area. East of it lies the windswept Samasa Desert, while to the west are the western coast and the graveyard. Beyond these southern regions, the sea marks Holodrum's lower boundary, and the Pyratians sail these waters to travel between Holodrum and Labrina. In Holodrum, the seasons directly reshape the landscape and what can be done in it. During winter, trees lose their leaves and lakes freeze solid enough to cross on foot. Snowbanks can shut off some of the routes while also creating new ways to reach elevated areas. When spring arrives, hardened buds open into flowers, and summer brings fresh growth, with vines appearing on cliff faces and rocky walls that can be climbed. In autumn, rock mushrooms emerge and can be collected. Holodrum is sparsely populated and doesn't appear to have a single central government. Most of the human residents live in Horon Village, which is watched over by the Maku Tree. The community is headed by Mayor Rule. There's also a smaller human settlement tucked into the mountains below Mount Kuko, which is possibly an offshoot of Horon Village. Beyond humans, Holodrum has very few intelligent inhabitants. The main non-human group is the Gorons, who live in the tunnels and caverns of Goron Mountain. Moblins also reside at the Great Moblins Keep, and Deku Scrubs show up from time to time. Overall, the Goron community here is modest, especially when compared with larger Goron settlements like Goron City in Hyrule or Termina's Goron Village. Hytopia is a style-obsessed, trend-setting kingdom. Long ago, during the era of light and dark, Hytopia was linked with the Kingdom of Hyrule, which lay to its north. Later on, likely around the Golden Era when Hyrule grew larger, Hytopia appears to have been absorbed into the Kingdom of Hyrule. Hytopia is ruled over by King Tuft alongside his daughter, Princess Styla. Most of its inhabitants are round-eared humans known as Hytopians. The town itself is quite small with only a limited number of residents, but it's celebrated as a hub of culture, where locals take pride in dressing in bold, distinctive outfits. At the heart of the town stands a stone fountain called the Triforce Hero statue. It shows 3 heroes stacked into a totem with their swords raised toward the sky, honoring the legendary figures mentioned in Hytopia's prophecy. Locals traditionally stop to express gratitude at the monument. Sometime after Princess Styla's curse was broken, Hytopia was absorbed into the Kingdom of Hyrule, effectively becoming part of Hyrule's northern lands. Even though it stopped existing as a separate realm, its culture and history still left a mark on the version of Hyrule seen during the Era of Decline and the quest to reunite the Triforce. Hytopia's tradition of strong spellcasters helps make magic more common among people of that time, and communities in Hyrule's far north were especially known for their stylish clothing. Koholint Island is the dream setting of Link's Awakening, a tropical world that exists only within the wind fish's sleep. Koholint is centered around the wind fish's egg, which rests high in the Tal Mountains, with notable areas nearby like the Mysterious Woods, Canalic Castle, and Toronbo Shores. The island's map is organized into a 16 by 16 grid, and across those sections are caves and dungeons, as well as settlements such as Mabe Village and Animal Village. Labrina, like Hyrule and Holodrum, is a lively and scenic land with plentiful natural wealth. Many different people live there, including the human Labrinas, the Zoras, the Gorons, the Tokay of Crescent Island, and various other peoples. Towering over the land is Labrina's most striking landmark, the massive black tower at the nation's center, visible from nearly anywhere, even from shifts far offshore. No one really knows Labrina's true origins. Many people speculate that, much like Termina, it came into being as a result of the Golden Goddesses creating Hyrule. The exact age of Labrina as a nation is also unclear, but the Maku tree confirms it has existed for at least 400 years. Around 4 centuries ago, Labrina was governed by a royal dynasty comparable to Hyrule's, ruling from the country's capital, Lina Village. At the time, the throne was held by Queen Ambi, a widely admired leader remembered for her compassion and generous spirit. Over the centuries, however, the nation's political structure shifted, and eventually a republic was established to replace the old monarchy. Labrina's landscape is highly diverse, much like Holodrum and Hyrule. In the northeast, rolling ridges mountains shape the region and serve mainly as the homeland of the Gorons. Nearby in the north are the Noon Highlands, a mix of rounded hills and sharp ridgelines that meet rolling ridge along the border. The northwest features Talus Peaks, known for its natural springs and waterfalls, as well as Symmetry Village, a carefully balanced settlement that is considered a sister community to Lina City. Just east of Lina City is the Forest of Time, famous for its many animals that can speak, along with the eerie Yol Graveyard where Labrina's dead are buried. West of the city lies the Fairies Woods, an enchanted forest said to mislead visitors by making them lose their way. Farther south stretches the broad Zora Seas, which include places like Zora Village, the treacherous Sea of Storms, and Crescent Island. Lorule is a dark mirror of Hyrule, closely resembling what's known as the Dark World. Long ago, it was a thriving realm comparable to Hyrule, complete with its own sacred realm and its own Triforce. Over time, Lorule's people became obsessed with the Triforce's seemingly boundless power, and violent conflicts erupted as factions fought to claim it. To stop the bloodshed, Princess Hilda's ancestors chose to destroy their Triforce instead of sealing it away, but that decision had a devastating consequence. Without it, Lorule gradually began to fall into decay. At the conclusion of A Link Between Worlds, Link and Princess Zelda use the power of Hyrule's Triforce to make a wish that restores Lorule's lost Triforce. With its sacred power returned, the Kingdom of Lorule is renewed and begins to recover, restoring the land to the prosperity it once had. Lorule is ruled as a monarchy, and the only confirmed royal is Princess Hilda, the most recent heir of Lorule's royal line. In ancient times, the royal family governed the kingdom until they chose to destroy the Triforce, after which their ultimate fate is unclear. Like Hilda, Lorule's rulers have traditionally led from Lorule Castle, the kingdom's central seat of power. Lorule closely resembles Hyrule's Dark World, though it also has distinctive traits and even some areas that feel closer to the Light World than the Dark. After its Triforce was destroyed, the realm began physically breaking apart, carving massive chasms through the land and splitting the kingdom into 7 separate regions that make movement between areas far more challenging. Once Lorule's Triforce is restored, this gradual collapse begins to reverse. Many people from Lorule strongly parallel individuals from Hyrule, but Lorule's darker aesthetic changes details like hair and eye color along with outfits. Temperaments also contrast too. Hyruleans are frequently portrayed as kind and hospitable, while Loruleans are more commonly shown as abrasive and unfriendly. As Lorule's supplies dwindle, some residents turned to robbery and life as bandits to survive. Others grow jealous of the monsters, believing they live more free and content lives. Because of that, a number of Loruleans even don monster masks, hoping to resemble or somehow transform into the creatures that they envy. New Hyrule is a kingdom that takes its name from the original Hyrule. After a conflict with Demon King Malladus, the land established a vast railway network known as the Spirit Tracks. The rails spread out in 4 main directions, and all link back to the Tower of Spirits at the center. Together with the tower and 4 temples, this system functions as a magical binding mechanism that keeps Malladus sealed away beneath the earth. New Hyrule is organized into 5 main regions: the Forest, Snow, Ocean, Fire, and Sand realms. Each area has its own distinct landscape, as well as unique communities, cultures, and inhabitants. New Hyrule's forest realm lies in the southwest, dominated by thick woodlands with broader grasslands stretching out to its eastern side. It's where much of the kingdom's Hylian population lives across several towns and outposts. Castletown, the capital, sits toward the north, and other key spots include Whittleton, Aboda Village, the Trading Post, Rabbitland Rescue, and the Forest Sanctuary. The Snow Realm occupies New Hyrule's northwest and is defined by icy terrain and evergreen woodlands. It's home to the Anoki, a people who arrived from the Isle of Frost and settled in Anoki Village. The region is also dotted with multiple rail stops and landmarks, including Snow Sanctuary, Bridge Workers Home, Wellspring Station, Snowdrift Station, and Slippery Station. The Ocean Realm stretches across the southeast and consists of a wide expanse of water dotted with islands and rich sea life. The Hylians of Popuchia Village rely heavily on fishing for their livelihood, but pirate activity centered around the pirate hideout often causes problems. Notable places in the region also include the Ocean Sanctuary and Lost at Sea Station. The Fire Realm sits in New Hyrule's northeast and is defined by volcanic peaks, molten lava pools, and rugged stony mountains. Gorons inhabit the area in several places, such as Goron Village, the Fire Sanctuary, Dark Ore Mine, and the Goron Target Range. Rising at the heart of the realm is a massive mountain crowned by the Fire Temple. Inside is the Force Gem that energizes the spirit tracks, yet it's also tied to the eruptions that make the region dangerous. The Sand Realm lies between the ocean and fire regions, and is mostly an empty desert. It has only a couple of major stops, Sand Sanctuary and the Sand Temple, where the Holy Bow of Light is protected. The area also contains the Three Trials, a set of challenges for anyone hoping to earn the right to wield said weapon. Skyloft, sometimes called the Isle of the Goddess, is a cluster of sizable islands that drift high above the clouds. Skyloft's people are known for traveling through the skies on giant birds called loftwings. Their airborne settlement includes several well-known landmarks such as the Skyloft Bazaar, the Knight Academy, Waterfall Cave, the Statue of the Goddess, Beetle's Airshop, a graveyard, and many homes spread across the islands. For many generations, Skyloft stayed high above the cloud layer, and memories of the surface, and why Skyloft was raised into the sky, faded into myth. Even as the true history slipped away, the people continued to honor the goddess Hylia and trusted that she still protected them. They didn't realize that, in the Sky Era, Hylia was actually present among them in a human form. About 25 years before the events of Skyward Sword, Skyloft founded the Knight Academy to train its knights and began the Wing Ceremony, a yearly competition where Academy students vie to move up in rank. The celebration ends with the champion performing a traditional reenactment of the ancient hero of the goddess alongside another student who portrays the goddess herself. By the Force Era, large human populations moved to living on the surface, which came to be known as the Kingdom of Hyrule. Subrosia is an underground lava-filled realm hidden underneath Holodrum and inhabited by the Subrosians. For anyone from the outside, the only way in is by using one of 7 portals spread throughout Holodrum. Before Onyx sent the Temple of Seasons down into Subrosia, the region's residents lived in relative peace. Once the temple fell, it threw everything out of balance. An area known as the East Plaza was ruined, the lava level dropped and threatened the Subrosia's food supply, and the realm's volcanoes became dangerously unstable. Unlike Holodrum and most regions in The Legend of Zelda, Subrosia primarily trades with ore chunks instead of rupees, likely because the ore is so plentiful there. Some Subrosians also rely on simple barter. For instance, certain goods at the Subrosia market can only be purchased by providing mystical seeds along with ore. Because it lies far beneath the surface, Subrosia is extremely hot and dominated by volcanic activity, with many volcanoes and seas of lava. Even so, the region can still support vegetation such as grass and trees. Its layout also oddly resembles Holodrum's, featuring mountains in the north and a coastline along the south. Termina is a world that exists alongside Hyrule. Its regions are inhabited by many people who closely resemble characters seen in Ocarina of Time. It is a land of many diverse regions. The north consists of icy mountains. To the east lies eerie canyon lands, the south is covered in woods and swamplands, and the west opens into coastal bays, with Clocktown at the heart of it all. Compared with Hyrule of the same era, Termina is portrayed as more technologically developed, featuring things like live music groups, boats with engines, inns and shops for visitors, clocks, lottery games, photography like pictography, and even ambitions of traveling into space. Termina's spiritual traditions and mythology center on the four giants. Unlike Hyrule, it has no widely known story of creation, so much of its earliest history comes from tales about these ancient guardians. In the distant past, before the people of Termina spread out to the north, south, east, and west, the giants watched over them together. Eventually, the giants told the people they would depart to each of the four directions and protect them from afar while they slept, promising to return whenever the people called out in great need. Ikana, the fallen kingdom in Termina's East Canyons, is remembered for its especially brutal and war-torn past. Ikana Canyon is filled with restless spirits from those conflicts, including the Garo, who once served as spies against the kingdom, and Captain Kita, the former commanding leader of Ikana's armies. The kingdom's final ruler, Egos du Ikana, tells Link that after someone entered the Stone Tower, his people lost sight of friendship and forgiveness, and that this failure ultimately led to the kingdom's collapse. Every year, the people of Termina gather in Clocktown for a festival honoring the four giants, and this is the season when Link arrives in Termina. Known as the Carnival of Time, the celebration marks the meeting of the sun and moon, as well as the passage of time itself. During the festivities, people traditionally wear masks modeled after the four giants, and a wedding held on the night of the carnival is believed to bring good fortune. Termina is made up of regions with different systems of rule rather than a single unified government. At its center, Clocktown functions as a democracy headed by a mayor who handles major civic decisions. In the southern swamp, authority rests with a monarchy led by the Deku King, the Deku Princess, and their attendants. Snowhead is governed by the Goron Elder, a patriarch whose role can pass to another Goron deemed worthy. Clocktown in particular is a lively center of commerce and entertainment. Its economy is supported by public attractions, various minigames, live musical performances, and the annual Carnival of Time. The town also includes a bank where residents can store their money. The inhabitants of Termina also differ in notable ways from similar groups found in other lands, especially Hyrule. The Deku, for instance, can glide through the air by using Deku flowers, and Gorons cannot live underwater, and the Zora inhabit saltwater environments rather than rivers or lakes. The world of the Ocean King is the main setting for most of Phantom Hourglass. It is the home of the Ocean King and the spirits who serve him. Because it closely resembles the Great Sea, Link and Tetra do not realize at first that they have entered a different world during their journey. The Golden Goddesses likely formed the world of the Ocean King, as their emblems are present in the Temple of the Ocean King. Time also appears to move far faster there than in the Great Sea, as everything Link and Tetra experience in that realm passes in only about 10 minutes in their own world. Much like the Great Sea, the world of the Ocean King shows very little political structure, especially after the Ocean King seemingly vanished. The two islands in the southwest have no established leadership, while the northwest is largely empty aside from a few rare inhabitants. Organized rule appears only in the southeast, where Goron Island is led by a Goron Elder, and the Isle of Frost is overseen by an Anuki chief. In the northeast, the region was once controlled by the Cobble Kingdom, ruled by a king and 4 knights, but that line eventually died out for reasons unknown. Like the Great Sea, the world is made up mostly of open water, making ships the primary means of travel. The islands themselves share a generally similar shape and terrain, often featuring rough, grassy landscapes. Many of them have bridges and stairways built by their residents, which makes most areas fairly easy to reach without special methods. Even so, each island has its own distinct environment and notable features. For instance, the Isle of Ember is centered around an active volcano, the Isle of Frost is covered in ice, and Goron Island is known for its dry, rocky landscape. Humans appear to be the most common people living across the islands. Gorons live mainly on Goron Island and also on Dias Island, while the Isle of Frost is home to both the Anuki and the Yuk. In the northeastern waters, the ruins left behind by the seemingly vanished Cobble suggest that they once lived there as well. Now we will explore many of the different races and peoples who can be found inhabiting the Kingdom of Hyrule across the ages. The ancient robots are highly advanced machines that live in Lanayru province and run on time shift stones, special mind and refined objects capable of altering time. They are also one of the surface-dwelling races present during the era of Hylia. Thousands of years ago, when the Lanayru Desert was still a lush and thriving region, the ancient robots worked there carrying out mining operations. Over time, however, the area's resources ran dry and the land decayed, causing the robots to fall into ruin and remain scattered across the desert. The Anuki, sometimes called the Anuki tribe, are small human-like beings distinguished by the antlers on their heads. They are typically shown wearing fur clothing rather than having natural protection against the cold, which suggests they may not originate from harsh places like the Isle of Frost. Even so, little is known about their history or their true physical nature. The Anuki live on the Isle of Frost in the Great Sea of the Ocean King's world. Their rivals are the harsher-looking Yuk tribe, and a peace deal made a century before the events of Phantom Hourglass divided the island between them, with the Anuki taking the west and the Yuk the east. The Anuki are known for their honesty, and are said never to lie, unlike the Yuk, who are known for their dishonesty. The Cobble were an ancient people who once established the Cobble Kingdom. In their time, they ruled over a large part of the world of the Ocean King before their civilization mysteriously collapsed. They were also highly skilled builders, responsible for creating the pyramids and tombs found on the Isle of Ruins. The Cobble may have also been highly skilled swordsmiths, since Zauz says his ancestors forged blades to protect Oshus from great evil. Their kingdom was a monarchy, led by King Mudo and supported by 4 knights. The Cobble also appear to have had their own sages, as shown by the 9 marked graves on the Isle of the Dead. Their culture seems heavily influenced by ancient Egypt, reflected in their pyramids and the Egyptian-style appearance of their knights. Deku Scrubs are small woodland beings that appear both as neutral creatures and as enemies across Hyrule, Termina, and other lands. They are plant-like in nature, with bodies that resemble wood, and with leaves and flowers forming what looks like hair and clothing. When threatened, they attack by spitting Deku nuts, and often retreat into a small flower-shaped patch of foliage for cover. There is a rumor that a Deku Scrub's personality is strongly influenced by the kind of tree it comes from. Demons are a race of monstrous, generally evil creatures. As a rule, they are naturally malevolent and give off a dark presence that draws monsters to them and can drastically affect the behavior of animals, though there are a few rare exceptions. Because they seek domination over the world, they pose a major danger to Hyrule and its people. Throughout the series, Ganon is commonly regarded as the ruler of the demons. The words demon and monster are sometimes treated as if they mean the same thing, but there is usually a distinction between them. Demons are typically beings born directly from evil itself, while monsters are creatures that have been twisted by dark magic. In that sense, demons act as the source and leaders of evil, while monsters serve under them. Demons can also take on human form, and humans are capable of becoming demons as well. They have also shown the power to possess other beings. Both Ganon and Malladus, for example, have taken control of Zelda, and each has also existed in a spirit-like form without a physical body. Most fairies are tiny beings with restorative magic, typically moving through the air on insect-like wings. Their design changes depending on the game. Sometimes, such as in Ocarina of Time, they appear as glowing balls of light with 4 wings, while in other titles they look like miniature winged women. Fairies are often found gathered in fairy fountains throughout the land, though some can also be discovered hiding in places like jars or tall grass. Fairies generally serve one of 2 main purposes in the series. Most are known for their healing abilities, and others act as companions who travel alongside the hero. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask also feature a separate type of fairy known as Big Fairies, which look like larger glowing spheres without wings. Great Fairies are far larger and more powerful than ordinary fairies, often as large as an adult Hylian or even bigger. They almost always appear in the form of a winged woman, though the Great Fairies in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Hyrule Warriors are unusual in that they resemble women who can fly despite having no visible wings. They live in special locations known as Great Fairy Fountains and typically aid Link by restoring his health, enhancing his abilities, or increasing how much he can carry. Stray fairies, by contrast, are fragments of a shattered Great Fairy. They appear in Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, and 4 Swords, and differ from most other fairies in both appearance and demeanor. The Gerudo, sometimes called the female pirates, originate from the Gerudo region and have appeared throughout the series. In Ocarina of Time, they gather in Gerudo's fortress within Gerudo Valley. In 4 Swords Adventures, they seem to live nomadically in the Desert of Doubt, and in Breath of the Wild they are established as merchants in Gerudo Town. The main exception to the motif is in Majora's Mask, where they instead reside near the coast of Great Bay. One unusual trait of the Gerudo is that they are an almost entirely female people, with only 1 male said to be born every 100 years. By tradition, that rare male is meant to rule as the king. In times when no such king exists, the Gerudo are instead governed by a chief, with leadership passing from mother to daughter. The reason for this custom is never fully explained. At least in the era of Ocarina of Time and again in Breath of the Wild, Gerudo women are known to seek partners from other human peoples, especially Hylians. After marriage, they generally do not live inside the main Gerudo hub, though they still return there to trade in the marketplace. It is also suggested that a new Gerudo male cannot be born while the previous one remains, which may explain why no male children appeared among the Gerudo after Ganondorf was sealed away for 10,000 years. Gerudo are typically recognized by their dark complexions, amber eyes, red hair, tall builds, and distinctly sharp bird-like noses, though their skin tones can vary widely. In some games, many Gerudo also have noticeably colored lips, such as white or bluish shades, and their ears may be either round or pointed. Their names usually follow Eastern order, with the family name placed before the given name. The Gerudo are generally portrayed as a secluded people who are wary of outsiders entering their lands, which in Hyrule usually means the entire desert region. Even in the more open era of Breath of the Wild, they still forbid men from entering their towns, to the extent that selling men's clothing there is against the law. Under Gerudo customs, young Gerudo women are not allowed to associate with men until they come of age, except in the case of the Gerudo king. Those born outside Gerudo territory are expected to return there and remain there until adulthood. Since ancient times, the Gerudo have believed that contact between young women and men can invite disaster. Even so, they do respect skill and merit, and outsiders who prove themselves can still earn acceptance among them. As a warrior people, much like the Sheikah, the Gerudo are highly skilled in battle. Archery and expert horsemanship hold an important place in their culture. For travel across the desert, they rely on sand seals. Rather than riding them directly, a person glides behind one on a shield while staying attached by a rope. In Breath of the Wild, Muava says that Gerudo no longer follow the goddess Hylia. Even so, they still believe in an afterlife where their ancestors continue watching over them. Instead of venerating Hylia, they honor these 7 heroines as sacred guardians. These figures represent the virtues of heart, skill, fortitude, wisdom, flight, mobility, and compassion, and are said to have protected and guided the Gerudo since ancient times. Despite their importance, very little is truly known about them, even among the Gerudo themselves. There is ongoing debate over whether the heroines should be revered collectively or individually, and even their number is disputed, with some believing there are 8, or perhaps only 1. Adding to the mystery, the statues of the 7 heroines bear the Gerudo inscription for 7 sages. The Gerudo possess their own written script, known simply as Gerudo. This writing appears prominently in places like the Gerudo's training ground and the Spirit Temple in Ocarina of Time, and their distinct spoken language can also be heard throughout Breath of the Wild. The Gorons are a race of rock-like beings found in Hyrule, Termina, and other lands. They are powerful mountain dwellers with broad muscular bodies, and their size can range from average to enormous. The largest known Goron in the series is Bigoron, whose height is said to rival the summit of Death Mountain. Physically, Gorons are built with short legs and much longer arms, giving them a distinctive, heavyset shape. Gorons usually make their homes in or beneath mountain ranges across many lands, including places like Hyrule's Death Mountain and Termina's Snowhead. Even so, they are not limited to mountain life, and it is common to see them leave their rocky homes and travel through lower regions or even journey to distant countries. Fitting their rugged environment, Gorons have tough, rounded bodies that resemble rocks or boulders, and most have ridged stone-like backs. They usually have light brown skin, small eyes, and prominent lips that cover uneven, square-shaped teeth. Another common feature is a symbol shaped like a Goron's ruby marked on their upper arms, though it is unclear whether this is a natural trait or something added later. Their sturdy spherical build also lets them curl into a ball and roll like a boulder, a skill they often use for both movement and combat. No female Gorons have ever been shown in the series. Instead, Gorons are said to be born from the earth, and those who emerge from the same place regard one another as brothers. They are known for their tremendous strength and take great pride in it, often holding contests to prove themselves through feats of power and skill such as sumo wrestling and rolling races. Although Gorons have many advantages, they also have clear weaknesses. Their heavy bodies usually make them slow on foot, though they can overcome this somewhat by curling up and rolling. Deep water is another major vulnerability, since they are unable to swim. Even so, Gorons can hold their breath for extremely long periods, which means they do not drown. Gorons usually live in tight-knit mountain communities led by an elder chief. Their leaders are valued not just for strength but for wisdom, guiding the tribe through respect rather than fear. Although Gorons often keep to themselves, they still trade regularly with Hylians and other allied peoples. They share a strong bond with one another and place great importance on mutual respect. While generally friendly, Gorons can be wary of outsiders and may seem guarded or even hostile at first. But if someone proves themselves through strength, skill, intelligence, or courage, the Gorons will accept that person as one of their own. Gorons eat a diet made almost entirely of rocks taken from nearby quarries, and they can be surprisingly picky about the kinds they prefer. While they consume ordinary stone, they do not care much for gemstones, and once saw them as useless until they realized other people were willing to pay for them. Gorons also have a strong love for music, singing, and dancing, with their dances usually emphasizing their size and strength more than grace. Their body paint, meanwhile, is often more a matter of fashion than deeper meaning. Kitons are fox-like creatures with 3 tails, inspired by the legendary Japanese 9-tailed fox. They have yellow fur with black coloring at the ends of their tails, and it is said that they can tell each other apart by the distinct shine of those tails. In the series, the Kiton are also portrayed as one of the wisest races, comparable to figures like the Great Deku Tree. The Kikwi are small, plush-looking beings with features that blend the animal and plant worlds. They have round, pear-shaped bodies covered in 2 shades of brown fur, along with little white arms, tiny black feet, and faces marked by dark eyes and a short beak. What seems like a fluffy tail is actually a plant bud that can open into a leafy bush, helping them conceal themselves. They also have leaf-like growths on their heads that resemble hair, and some, like the elders Bucha and Yerbal, even have facial hair. Most Kiwis are about half of Link's height, though Bucha is much larger and stands taller than him. Kiwis are plant-eating creatures known for their gentle and non-violent nature. Rather than fight when threatened, they usually flee or hide. Long ago, they were one of the 5 races that stood with the goddess Hylia during the battle against Demise's forces. In the era of the sky, they make their home in Faron Woods. Although they speak Hylian well, their speech is often marked by clicking noises and chirping sounds, giving it a bird-like quality. Koroks are small wood-like beings with bodies that look like tiny trees. Their faces are hidden behind masks made from leaves, each one shaped differently depending on the kind of leaf it resembles. These masks usually have cutouts for eyes and a mouth, and sometimes an opening for the nose as well. When they move, their bodies give off a light rattling or jingling sound. They can also take to the air by using Deku leaves that grow from their bodies like little propellers. In The Wind Waker, the Koroks live under the care of the Great Deku Tree in Forest Haven. He explains that they were once known as the Kokiri and had human-like appearances before transforming after the Great Flood. Koroks are also extremely timid and usually keep themselves hidden from humans. The Korok ceremony is a major tradition for both the Koroks and the Great Deku Tree in The Wind Waker. Each year, the Great Deku Tree produces special forest seeds, which the Koroks carry across the Great Sea to plant and tend. Their goal is to help forests spread, restore more land, and one day connect the islands into a single landmass. These seeds hold a strange power and must all be planted at the same time, or else they will die. The Mogma are an intelligent, organized tribe of mole-like people who make their home on Eldin Volcano in the Eldin province. They look similar to moles with human traits, featuring long snouts, light-colored fur, strong builds, and long claws made for digging. They also have pointed ears, and many display a dark stripe or marking over their eyes. Quite a few have hair that differs in color from the rest of their fur, and some can even grow beards or other facial hair. Mogma are usually seen half buried in the ground with only their upper bodies visible, and they seldom come fully above the surface. When they do, their small paw-like feet and large rounded tails can be seen. The Mogma are known for being very greedy, as most of them have a strong fascination with rupees and valuable treasures, which they search for in the mineral-rich areas of Eldin Volcano. Their obsession with riches can be so intense that some of them pay little attention to the needs or safety of others. Many Mogma also carry bags or small packs strapped to their backs to store the treasures they uncover. Not every Mogma is a treasure hunter, and even with their strong love of wealth, Mogma are usually good-natured and make a point of repaying any favors or debts they owe. The Parella, sometimes known as the Parella tribe, are a water-dwelling race that live in Lake Floria in the Faron province. Their appearance combines traits of both seahorses and jellyfish, with seahorse-like heads and tails attached to soft jellyfish-like bodies. They also have coral-shaped crests growing from their heads. Even though they look unusual and do not seem to have fins, the Parella are extremely skilled swimmers, capable of traveling long distances without getting tired. Because they have no bones, they can also squeeze easily into tight spaces. They are devoted to the water dragon Faron, who they respectfully call Her Excellence, and in return, they live under her protection in the province. The Rito are a race with bird-like traits, most notably wings that allow them to fly. Their appearance is largely avian, with features such as beaks, talons, and feathered wings, though the exact degree of these traits differs between the Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. In the Wind Waker, they look more human overall, with only some bird-like qualities. In Breath of the Wild, however, they resemble full bird people, with very few human features. It is possible these two versions are related groups or subspecies living in different regions of Hyrule. In the Wind Waker, the Rito are said to have descended from the Zora. In the Wind Waker, the Rito have mostly human-like bodies, but with several bird-like traits such as pointed ears, large red eyes, beak-shaped noses in orange-yellow tones, and legs ending in talons. Many of them have dark complexions and white hair, often worn in braids. Young Rito are born without wings, and when they reach a certain age, they must visit Valu to receive one of his scales, which allows their wings to develop. Most of the time, these wings stay folded along their arms like sleeves, but when they begin flying, their arms change into fully opened wings. Because of this gift of flight, the Rito are especially well suited for delivering mail across the Great Sea. In Breath of the Wild, the Rito look far more like true birds and have very few human features left. Unlike their counterparts in The Wind Waker, even young Rito already have wings, and there is no visible guardian figure like Valu connected to their ability to fly. In this version of Hyrule, both the Rito and the Zora exist side by side, so it is unclear whether the Rito are still meant to have descended from the Zora. These Rito live in Rito Village, which stands above Lake Totori in the Hebra region. From an early age, boys are encouraged to look up to Revali, the Rito champion who lived 100 years earlier. Although Rito can glide and fly forward with ease, they cannot rise straight into the air without help and depend on air currents to carry them higher. Rito do not see well in darkness and have difficulty navigating poorly lit areas. Their diet mainly consists of meat and fish, much like predatory birds. Their feathers help trap warmth, which is useful both in the cold environment they inhabit in Breath of the Wild and while flying high in the sky. Young Rito shed their feathers once each year, and these molted feathers support a successful local trade as they are used to make things like Hylian clothing and bedding. The Rito are also well known for their musical talent, often preserving their history and traditions through song. The Sheikah, sometimes called the Shadow Folk, are a branch of the Hylian people. They are human-like in form and closely resemble Hylians in both their appearance and their aptitude for magic. Because so few Sheikah have appeared throughout the series, with Impa being the only recurring example, their common traits are not widely documented. Even so, they are particularly recognizable by their striking red eyes. From the very beginning of their people's history, the Sheikah were appointed by the goddess Hylia as protectors. Since then, they have remained deeply loyal to Hyrule's royal family, who descend from Hylia's mortal form. Across different eras, Princess Zelda is often guarded by a Sheikah woman named Impa, who is typically portrayed as fiercely devoted to the princess's safety and well-being. In Breath of the Wild, the Sheikah have their own distinct written language, which appears throughout their technology and structures, including the ancient shrines, Sheikah towers, and the Sheikah slate. Their existence is often hidden from ordinary people, since they are most effective when operating in secrecy on behalf of Hyrule's royal family. The Sheikah are known for their absolute loyalty and their willingness to carry out any duty assigned to them. During peaceful eras, however, their numbers tend to decline. Some Sheikah are also taller than the average Hylian, and they are known to have longer lifespans as well. The Sheikah tribe is represented by the eye symbol, an emblem that appears throughout the series, even in entries where the Sheikah themselves are absent. Its open eye is meant to symbolize the pursuit of truth, while the tier beneath it reflects the Sheikah's role in serving from the shadows and their readiness to do whatever is necessary to fulfill their purpose. The symbol is also believed to protect against evil, and many Sheikah traditionally wear it as a tattoo. Yetis are a race that appear in Twilight Princess and Echoes of Wisdom, drawing inspiration from the legendary creature of the same name. Their bodies are covered in thick white fur, while their faces, hands, and feet are all left uncovered. These exposed areas are bluish-gray in males and brown in females. Male Yetis are much larger than the average human, around twice the height, with large tails resembling those of beavers. They are powerful enough to knock a Hylian down with ease. The only known female Yeti, Yetta, is much closer in size to a typical Hylian, though that may be because she seems relatively young. The Yetis speak a rough, broken form of Hylian and are generally shown to be warm and friendly. They also enjoy racing down Snow Peak on boards, an activity they refer to as sledding. The Zonai are an ancient people said to have come from the heavens and thus trace their origins back to the gods. Later depictions reveal that rather than being mysterious primitives as once anticipated, they were actually a remarkably advanced civilization that lived on floating islands. They made use of sophisticated Zonai technology, much of which was eventually lost over the ages. The gods entrusted the Zonai with secret stones, sacred objects that could greatly enhance a person's magical power, including abilities tied to water, wind, lightning, fire, time, spirit, light, and darkness. Long before Hyrule was founded, when the Zonai first came down from the heavens to the surface, the ancient Hylians believed they were gods themselves. After arriving on the surface, the Zonai settled in the Faron region. They were known for their powerful magic and are believed to have revered a water dragon. Their stone carvings depict the Triforce in a symbolic way, using dragons for courage, owls for wisdom, and boars for power. They also built numerous ancient stone ruins, with the best known site giving them their name, the Zonai Ruins. Much of their masonry bears a spiral design often associated with the tribe, though their true emblem appears to be a rectangular shape that narrows towards the bottom. The Zora, sometimes called the Zora tribe, are a water-dwelling people with traits drawn from fish and amphibians, such as fins, gills, and webbed feet that let them live and move easily underwater. Their appearance varies widely, but they are most often shown as humanoid beings with long fin-like extensions on their heads and additional fins along their arms and legs. They are closely tied to water and often seen as its guardians. Before they were introduced as an allied race in Ocarina of Time, the Zora first appeared in the earliest games as hostile enemies that attacked Link. These earlier Zora looked very different from their later friendly versions, with a far more reptilian and fish-like appearance and much less resemblance to humans. After both versions had been established, each continued to appear throughout the series, though the peaceful Zora are found mostly in the 3D console titles. Zora usually live in or around major bodies of water, and seldom travel far from them because of their aquatic nature. In Hyrule, they are most often associated with Zora's Domain, a vast watery cavern linked to the Zora River, which eventually flows into Lake Hylia, and they are commonly seen throughout these connected areas. However, Zora are not limited to freshwater habitats alone, as some are also capable of living in the sea, such as the Great Bay Zora in Majora's Mask and the Sea Zora in Oracle of Ages. Zora reproduce by laying eggs, which hatch into young that initially resemble tadpoles. These eggs are usually hatched within 1 to 3 days, as long as they remain in water with the right temperature and stay together with the other eggs laid alongside them. Although the young begin life with a more tadpole-like form, they start developing humanoid features well before they reach maturity. Zora are known for their long lives, and even those who are over 100 years old may still be considered young by their people. Their children also mature differently from other races, sometimes continuing to look very youthful even into young adulthood before suddenly growing taller. As they get older, Zora often takes special pride in speaking with greater refinement and formality. They also place great importance on tradition, history, and proper order. Since they rarely stray far from the water and are deeply protective of Zora's domain, they tend to have limited contact with other races. Zora mainly feed on fish and other aquatic creatures, and many of them are talented at fishing. Their swimming ability is exceptional, allowing them to move against strong currents and even travel up waterfalls. Since ancient times, the Zora have generally shared friendly ties with the Hylians, though in Hyrule's fallen timeline, that relationship weakens as ages pass. Alongside the Hylians and Gorons, the Zora have often been entrusted with helping protect Hyrule. Women of the Zora royal line are sometimes chosen to serve as sages during times of crisis, and when the sacred realm was sealed, the Zora were given responsibility for safeguarding the spiritual stone of water. Zora usually do not live in private homes, instead resting together in large communal pools, though this does not seem to apply to all Zora groups, since those in Labrina and Termina have individual residences. In this section of the video, we will provide a general overview of several notable characters from the Legend of Zelda games. We will focus on significant figures and regularly recurring characters, rather than attempting to cover every character, as many do not have enough detail or a distinct enough personality to merit their own entry. It also does not explore every aspect of each major character's story. This is especially true in the Wilds era, where characters like the champions have extensive backstories. Rather than examining every detail of their lives, the emphasis here is on their characterization and the roles they serve within the larger narrative. Anjean is a character from Spirit Tracks and a member of the Locomo. She was also a close friend of Tetra after meeting her not long after the pirate first arrived in the land that would later become New Hyrule. Because of that bond, Anjean entrusted Tetra with the sacred Spirit Flute, on the condition that she and her descendants would use it to help safeguard the kingdom. As the guardian of the Tower of Spirits, Anjean serves as the most important guide to both Link and Princess Zelda. She offers them advice throughout their journey as they work to restore the Spirit Tracks and ultimately defeat Malladus. Anjean also explains much of the lore surrounding the Locomo, the Spirit Flute, and the Spirit Tracks themselves. One of her most notable powers is telepathy, which she often uses to stay in contact with the heroes and support them on their quest. Errol is the younger sister of the Hero of Winds and the Wind Waker in Phantom Hourglass. She lives with Link and their grandmother on Outset Island and shares her brother's kindness, thoughtfulness, and willingness to help others, especially their grandma. Errol often calls Link Big Brother and enjoys spending time at the island's lookout, where she watches and plays with seagulls. Her telescope is especially precious to her, though she gives it to Link as a birthday present. Not long after this gift exchange, she and Link spot the Helmeric King flying overhead with Tetra in its claws. When Tetra is knocked into the nearby fairy woods, Errol encourages Link to go after her and help. After he succeeds, the giant bird later mistakes Errol for Tetra and carries her off to the Forsaken Fortress, setting Link on his mission to rescue her. After Errol is rescued, Tetra takes charge of bringing her back to Outset Island. She appears again near the end of the story on the pirate ship after Link and Tetra return from the flooded Kingdom of Hyrule following Ganondorf's defeat. In the post-credits scene, Errol and Grandma share an emotional farewell as she waves goodbye to Link before he and Tetra depart to search for new lands, setting up the events of Phantom Hourglass. After that, Errol is neither seen nor mentioned again. Beetle is a recurring character in the Legend of Zelda series, appearing in 7 different games. He is a traveling merchant who runs shops in various forms depending on the title. Unlike most other shopkeepers in the series, Beetle sometimes includes membership programs in his business, giving Link discounts and special perks for shopping with him regularly. In Ocarina of Time, Bigoron is an enormous Goron who lives on Death Mountain, near the Great Fairy Fountain. He is renowned as a master swordsmith and is the one who forges the mighty Bigoron sword. Bigoron also has a younger brother, Medigoron, who makes swords as well, though his craftsmanship is considered much poorer. In Majora's Mask, Bigoron appears as the guardian of Snowhead Temple and is a different character from the one in Ocarina of Time. He travels to Snowhead to find out why spring has not yet arrived, but because he is too large to enter the temple, he ends up waiting outside in the cold. His huge body blocks the way, and his powerful breath creates dangerous gusts that make it nearly impossible to get near the entrance. In Oracle of Seasons, Bigoron is found on the summit of Goron Mountain. After the Temple of Seasons sinks, the mountain's weather turns much colder, and he ends up catching a cold. Cole is a high-ranking official in Hyrule and serves as one of the main villains in Spirit Tracks. Although he outwardly acts as Princess Zelda's attendant and advisor within the royal court, his true motives are far more sinister. He is a short man who wears formal green clothing suited to his position, along with what appears to be 2 stacked green top hats later revealed to be concealing horns. Cole presents himself as both a counselor and protector to Zelda, but his suspicious behavior is one of the reasons she becomes uneasy and wants to leave the castle. During the final battle, Cole tries to aid Malladus in defeating Link and Zelda, but he fails. After Zelda regains her body, Malladus forcibly possesses Cole instead, transforming him into a monstrous giant. Cole's body cannot properly contain Malladus' spirit and begins to reject it, but Malladus presses on in an attempt to destroy the world before losing control. In the end, Link and Zelda strike the crystal on the possessed Cole's head with the Locomo sword, destroying both Cole and Malladus and bringing peace back to the kingdom. Daruk is the Goron champion of the Wilds era. Brave and steadfast, he is deeply committed to protecting his people and helping bring down Calamity Ganon. In combat, he is fierce, energetic, and intimidating, but outside of battle, he is also shown to be a more relaxed and good-humored person. He becomes close friends with Link, admiring both his strength and his hearty appetite. Despite his courage, Daruk has an intense fear of dogs, stemming from bad experiences with them when he was young. Darunia, sometimes called the Passionate Brother, is the chief of the Gorons of Hyrule and a sworn brother of the King of Hyrule. Though he has the look of a stern warrior, he has a strong love for music and dancing, and is deeply devoted to the well-being of his people. In Ocarina of Time, Darunia rules over Goron City on Death Mountain. He is a firm and serious leader who tries to look beyond immediate problems to understand the larger situation. After Link frees the Fire Temple and aids the Gorons, Darunia awakens as the Sage of Fire. During Link's 7-year absence, Darunia has a son and names him Link in honor of the hero who helped the Gorons. He makes sure his child grows up hearing stories about Link and his deeds. In Oracle of Seasons, Din is introduced as a gifted and well-known dancer in Holodrum. She is actually, in fact, the Oracle of Seasons, the one charged with maintaining the land's seasonal cycle. Although she has the ability to alter the seasons whenever and wherever she chooses, she usually lets nature follow its normal course. To avoid being captured by General Onyx, who wants to use her imprisonment to disrupt the world's balance, she travels across the land with a troupe of performers. Din is lively, cheerful, and full of energy, with a strong love of dance and of sharing that joy with others. At the beginning of the game, she even invites Link to dance with her. She is also warm-hearted and caring, often showing concern for others. Fi is a human-like spirit who dwells within the Goddess Sword, the blade that later becomes the Master Sword. In Skyward Sword, she acts as Link's companion and serves as his guide throughout the quest. She has psychic powers, including telepathy, and regularly helps Link by analyzing his surroundings, explaining enemy traits, and delivering messages from Hylia. Fi speaks in an artificial melodic kind of nonsense language, and her manner is highly precise, detached, and almost machine-like. She often expresses things in numerical probabilities, and while she can detect emotions, she does not naturally understand them very well. Fi calls Link her master because she recognizes him as the chosen hero meant to fulfill Hylia's purpose. Even so, over the course of their journey, she gradually forms a quiet bond with him. By the end, she shows genuine appreciation for the time they shared before entering her eternal rest within the Master Sword. Groose is a Knight Academy student from the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, who starts out as one of Link's main rivals in Skyloft and rides a black Loftwing. Much of his hostility towards Link comes from envy, especially because of Link's close bond with Zelda, whom Groose clearly likes. After Zelda disappears, he is left brooding in his room, grieving her loss and directing his frustration at Link for what had occurred. Early on, Groose is portrayed as proud, attention-seeking, and deeply insecure, using bluster and intimidation to cover his feelings. Even so, he is not truly cruel at heart, and the story hints from the beginning that his rough behavior comes more from immaturity than real malice. Groose is also played for humor as an overly dramatic larger-than-life figure who loves to make himself seem important. He has a habit of giving things new names, inflating his role in events, and treating everything like part of his own grand story. Even as he becomes more selfless, those theatrical qualities stay intact. Later in the game, Groose becomes sincerely focused on protecting Zelda and shows real courage despite not sharing Link's heroic role or special abilities. At the conclusion of the story, he returns to Skyloft with Colin and Stritch, while Link and Zelda stay behind on the surface. In Ocarina of Time, the Happy Mask salesman opens his store in the market after Link shows Zelda's letter to the guard blocking the path to Death Mountain Trail in Kakariko Village. Once the shop is available, Link can talk to him and begin the mask trading quest, where Link borrows masks from the shop and finds the right people to buy them. After all 4 original masks are sold, he earns the Mask of Truth, which lets him understand the messages of Gossip Stones. From that point on, he can also borrow the masks he already sold, along with 4 additional ones. In Oracle of Ages, the Happy Mask salesman runs a mask shop outside Lina City. He is extremely hungry and offers Link the Doggy Mask in return for food. In Majora's Mask, the Happy Mask salesman is introduced as the one who originally possessed Majora's Mask, and its theft by Skull Kid is what triggers the game's main conflict. At the end of the story, once Majora's power has been overcome, he takes the mask back and leaves Termina, with much of his past and true intentions still left a mystery. He comes across as friendly and upbeat on the surface, usually wearing a smile, but his emotions can change abruptly, swinging from warmth to anger or unease. This unpredictability gives him an unsettling presence, and even Nintendo's developers have noted that there is something difficult to interpret and vaguely frightening about him, despite the fact that he helps Link and guides parts of the quest. The salesman is also tied to a mysterious form of mask magic, especially through his use of the Song of Healing and his clear understanding of how dangerous Majora's Mask truly is. The hero Shade is a figure in Twilight Princess, appearing as an eerie skeletal warrior who can also take the shape of a white wolf. His purpose is to train Link by passing on 7 hidden sword techniques, helping him grow into a stronger and more capable fighter. Though he first seems like nothing more than the spirit of an ancient armored knight, the hero Shade is actually the hero of time, the same Link from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. In death, he remains unsettled, burdened by regret that he was never able to share the knowledge and experiences he gained in life with future generations. After being sent back to his childhood by Princess Zelda at the end of Ocarina of Time, he was also left with the sorrow of not being remembered as the hero he once was. To put his lingering regrets to rest and preserve the honor of Hyrule's knightly lineage, the hero's spirit passes his long-kept swordsmanship techniques onto his descendants, Link, the hero of Twilight in Twilight Princess. By teaching him the 7 hidden skills, he finally shares the wisdom he was unable to leave behind in life. Impa is a surname shared by multiple women of the Sheikah tribe. Across the series, characters with this name are often closely tied to Princess Zelda, frequently serving as her protector, caretaker, or trusted companion. They also tend to play an important mentoring role for Link, offering him key information, direction, and support throughout his journey. In the earliest games, Impa is portrayed as Zelda's caretaker and the one who helps launch Link's adventure. In Ocarina of Time, she is presented as a younger, disciplined fighter from Kakariko Village who serves as Zelda's guardian and later awakens as the Sage of Shadow. In Skyward Sword, she is depicted as Hylia's faithful servant and a fierce protector of Zelda, with her role shown across both her younger and older years. In Breath of the Wild, she appears as the aged leader of Kakariko Village and a former royal counselor who has spent 100 years waiting for Link's return, then helps guide him in recovering his memories and freeing the divine beasts. Across these appearances, Impa is consistently shown as intelligent, serious, devoted, protective, and exceptionally capable, though some games highlight her strength as a warrior while others focus more on her role as a seasoned advisor. Kaepora Gaebora first appears in Ocarina of Time. He takes the form of a large owl and shows up at key points in Link's journey to provide advice, warnings, and a sense of direction. In times of trouble across Hyrule, he acts as a guide for its hero. In Majora's Mask, Kaepora Gaebora teaches Link the Song of Soaring in the Southern Swamp, allowing him to travel between owl statues and later points him towards the Lens of Truth near Snowhead. He also returns in Four Swords Adventures, where he once again serves as a guide, appearing after the heroes claim the Four Sword and continuing to advise them throughout their quest. In Ocarina of Time, a gossip stone suggests that Kaepora Gaebora is the rebirth of an ancient sage. Later official materials connect the owl to Rauru as his owl form, though fans still debate how literally that relationship should be interpreted. The King of Hyrule is a recurring figure in the Legend of Zelda series, serving as the ruling monarch of Hyrule and, in most cases, Princess Zelda's father. As the kingdom's sovereign, he often stands in contrast to Ganon, the Demon King, who represents Hyrule's greatest threat. Although each game usually features a different king with his own background and perspective, he is generally portrayed as a leader devoted to Hyrule's peace and well-being. His role in the story often involves guiding, directing, defending, or placing the kingdom's hopes in Link and Zelda. One of the most significant versions of the King of Hyrule is Daphne's Nohansen Hyrule in The Wind Waker. He is the last ruler of ancient Hyrule and travels in secret as the King of Red Lions, helping guide Link across the Great Sea. His story is deeply connected to the downfall of Old Hyrule, the Great Flood, and the choice to let the Lost Kingdom fade instead of bringing it back for his own sake. Another major depiction is Roam Bosphorus Hyrule in Breath of the Wild, officially known as the last King of Hyrule. As Zelda's father, he is a ruler defined by the looming threat of Calamity Ganon. Even after the kingdom falls, he continues to aid Link as a spirit, helping set him on the path to save Hyrule. King Zora is a recurring royal figure in the Legend of Zelda series and serves as the male leader of the Zora, the aquatic people who inhabit Hyrule and nearby regions. He first appears in A Link to the Past, where Link meets him at Zora's Waterfall. In that game, he is notably friendly despite the more aggressive behavior often associated with other Zora. The most familiar portrayal of King Zora appears in Ocarina of Time. In that version, he rules Zora's domain and is Princess Ruto's father. He initially blocks Link's path to Lord Jabu Jabu, but once Link delivers Ruto's letter, he allows him to pass and enter the creature's domain. King Zora also appears in Oracle of Ages, where Link takes part in efforts to save him from a deadly sickness brought on by polluted water. Linebeck is the captain of the steamboat known as the SS Linebeck, which serves as Link's main way of traveling across the world of the Ocean King in Phantom Hourglass. A treasure hunter at heart, he is largely driven by greed and personal gain, which is a big reason he ends up joining Link on the journey. He is typically portrayed as arrogant, self-serving, and obsessed with profit, and his interactions with the fairy Ciela are filled with sarcasm, arguing, and comedic tension. As the story progresses, he grows from a reluctant, self-interested companion into someone far more reliable and brave. His legacy continues in Spirit Tracks, where his grave appears in the new Kingdom of Hyrule, showing that he eventually reached the new land and started a family there. His grandson, Linebeck III, also appears in that game and closely resembles him. The Maku Tree is the guardian tree spirit found in The Legend of Zelda, Oracle of Seasons, and Oracle of Ages. The role appears in two parallel forms, a male Maku Tree who protects Holodrum and watches over Din, and a female Maku Tree who guards Labrina and Nehru. In both stories, the Maku Tree is among the first major allies Link meets. Each version is weakened by the chaos caused by the main villain of its game, General Onyx in Holodrum and Varen in Labrina, and both send Link on the task of collecting the 8 essences so their power and lost memories can return. While they serve nearly the same purpose in the story, the two are given distinct appearances and personalities. The Holodrum Maku Tree is male and comes across as sleepy, noble, and long-nosed, while the Labrina Maku Tree is female, decorated with flowers, lively, and more openly expressive. Malon is a recurring supporting character in the Legend of Zelda series, and is especially well known for her appearance in Ocarina of Time. She is usually depicted as Talon's daughter and as a kind, hardworking girl who helps run Lon Lon Ranch. She is commonly shown as a young Hylian with red hair and modest ranch attire. Throughout her appearances, Malon is portrayed as more dependable and mature than her father, often shouldering much of the ranch's daily work herself. Malon returns in Oracle of Seasons, where she and Talon care for Kukos in North Horon. In Four Swords Adventures, she appears out in the field during a storm and asks Link to help escort her back home safely. In The Minish Cap, she is found outside Lon Lon Ranch after Talon loses the key, and Link must shrink down to Minish size, slip through a tiny opening, and retrieve it so the ranch can be reopened. A major part of Malon's identity is her singing, especially Epona's song, which serves not only as a useful gameplay mechanic but also as a reflection of her close connection with Epona. Marin is a central character in The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. She lives in Mabe Village on Koholint Island with her father Tarin, and she is the first person Link encounters after he is washed ashore. She is typically shown with reddish-orange hair, a blue dress, sandals, a red pendant, and a flower worn in her hair. Marin is known for her gentle, upbeat nature. She enjoys singing, cares deeply for others, and dreams of one day leaving Koholint to see the world beyond the island. She shares a warm and meaningful bond with Link, spending time with him outside the main quest and eventually asking him to remember both her and the Ballad of the Windfish. Medli is a character in The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. She is a young Rito from Dragon Roost Island who starts out as an apprentice serving Valu, the island's guardian spirit, but is later revealed to be the heir to Laruto's role as the new Sage of Earth. She is portrayed as a young bird-like girl with a beak-shaped nose, pointed ears, and reddish-orange hair tied in a long ponytail. She typically wears the simple clothing of Dragon Roost Island and carries a harp on her back, an instrument that is meaningful to her both personally and ceremonially. Medli is portrayed as earnest, dedicated, and thoughtful. Early in the story, she struggles with insecurity, doubting whether she can truly match her mentor's example or fulfill her duties to Valu. She takes her responsibilities seriously, works hard to improve, and cares deeply about those around her, especially Prince Komali, whose sorrow and withdrawal weigh heavily on her. Even with those fears, she still shows real courage when it matters. After awakening as a sage, Medli joins Link in the Earth Temple and becomes an active companion. She can carry him across short distances with flight and uses her harp alongside the mirror shield to redirect light. Once Yalhalla is defeated, she performs the Earth God's lyric and helps restore the Master Sword's sacred power against evil. Afterwards, she remains behind in prayer so that the sword's strength can continue to be renewed. Mineru is a Zonai character in The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. In Hyrule's distant past, she and her brother Rauru were the last known members of the Zonai people. Together with Sonia, a Hylian who became queen, they established the Kingdom of Hyrule, with Rauru as its first king. Their rule began in peace, but that era changed when the Gerudo King Ganondorf came before Hyrule's new rulers and pledged his allegiance. Later, with Link's help, Mineru's construct is restored, allowing the Sage of Spirit to aid him. Through the vow of Mineru, Link is then able to call on her power whenever he needs it. Mineru is depicted as a Zonai woman with gray skin, white hair, and attire marked by distinctive Zonai designs, including a large collar-like piece that carries her secret stone. She has very long ears that angle upward, though they are shorter than Rauru's, along with a closed third eye on her forehead. Flowing silk-like fabric surrounds her in a way that gives her an ethereal presence. Mineru is intelligent, compassionate, and gentle, though also quiet and reserved. She is deeply devoted to research, especially the study of Zonai history and technology, and her curiosity drives much of her work. She creates numerous devices to assist her, but she is also careful about how that technology is used, showing concern that it could become dangerous in the wrong hands. Her dedication to study is so intense that it sometimes causes her to neglect basic needs, such as eating, yet she is not entirely withdrawn, and with enough encouragement, she is willing to relax and spend time with others. As the Sage of Spirit, Mineru can detach her spirit from her physical body and inhabit other vessels. This allows her to later take control of a construct so she can fight alongside Link directly. Beyond that power, Mineru is also the foremost authority on Zonai history and technology. Even Rauru turns to her for guidance, recognizing that she is the more knowledgeable of the two. She is highly skilled in creating constructs and is also well versed in magic, including dangerous or forbidden forms of it. Mipha is a Zora character in The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. She is the princess of the Zora, one of Hyrule's 4 champions, and a close friend of Link. Like other Zora, Mipha has a body that blends human and aquatic features. She has red and white scaled skin, yellow eyes, and a head fin that resembles hair. She is also noticeably smaller than many other Zora and has a calm, gentle appearance. Before becoming a champion, she wore the jewelry and adornments associated with Zora royalty, but after taking on that role, she began wearing a robe marked with Hyrule's emblem. Mipha is often portrayed as quiet and reserved, but she shows real bravery whenever those she cares about need her help. She is exceptionally gentle and compassionate, extending the same warmth to strangers that she gives to her own people. Her feelings for Link are also an important part of her character, shown through her devotion to him and her promise to heal him no matter how badly he is hurt. She even shyly expresses her hope that once the calamity is over, they might spend time together again as they once did. As Zora's champion, Mipha is also one of the finest warriors in her domain. She is highly skilled with the light-scale trident, a weapon connected to her royal status, and her talent was refined through training from respected Zora mentors such as Sagan and Muzu. She also possesses Mipha's Grace, a rare healing power capable of saving others from mortal wounds, which later becomes Link's after Water Blight Ganon is defeated. Like other Zoras, she can breathe underwater and swim with great speed, and she also demonstrates some command over water itself. Naboru is a prominent character in Ocarina of Time, and serves as one of the highest-ranking members of the Gerudo, second only to Ganondorf. Although the Gerudo hold her in high esteem, they do not realize she opposes Ganondorf in secret. Over the course of the story, she awakens as the Sage of Spirit and helps Link in the fight against Ganon. Her appearance matches the Gerudo style seen in the game with desert-inspired clothing, striking features, and a strong authoritative presence. Naboru is confident, outspoken, and fearless, known for saying exactly what she thinks and standing up for herself and her beliefs, even to powerful figures. Navi is a fairy companion who travels with Link in Ocarina of Time and helps guide him throughout his journey to save Hyrule. She stays by his side from his childhood through adulthood, acting as his first and constant partner. She is caring, alert, and loyal, frequently warning Link about threats and directing him toward what he should do next. After Ganondorf is defeated and peace returns, Navi leaves without much explanation. Her disappearance later becomes an important part of Majora's Mask, where Link's search for a missing friend is commonly understood to be about her. Nehru is one of the key figures in The Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Ages. In Labrynna, she is admired as a talented singer, but she is secretly far more significant as the Oracle of Ages, entrusted with control over time itself. She is portrayed as gentle, wise, and deeply committed to harmony. Her role becomes central at the very beginning of the game, when Link helps Impa look for her in the forest. Once they find her, Varen, the Sorceress of Shadows, appears and takes possession of Nehru in order to seize her power. Varen then journeys back 400 years in the past, altering history and plunging Labrynna into chaos. Hilda, usually referred to as Princess Hilda, is the Princess of Lorule in A Link Between Worlds. As Lorule's counterpart to Princess Zelda, she initially appears to aid Link during his journey, but it is eventually revealed that her help is driven by her own hidden motives. Visually, Hilda closely mirrors Zelda while remaining clearly distinct. Her design centers on a dark purple palette, reflected in her long, deep purple hair and the two prominent locks that fall over her shoulders. Like Zelda, her clothing is regal and similar in overall style, but Hilda's version is sleeveless and paired with long white gloves. Her red eyes set her apart from Zelda's blue ones. Lorule's inverted Triforce motif is woven throughout her appearance, appearing in her clothing, her earrings, and the ornament atop her staff. Like Zelda, Hilda is a princess devoted to protecting her kingdom, but her fear of Lorule's collapse drives her into morally questionable choices. In her desperation, she becomes willing to endanger Hyrule by taking its Triforce, showing how far she is prepared to go to save her own world. That same desperation also makes her susceptible to Yuga's influence. As Zelda's counterpart, Hilda possesses powerful magic. Throughout the game, she demonstrates abilities such as teleportation, creating barriers, summoning creatures through magical circles, conjuring vines, and communicating mentally or through dreams. Princess Ruto is a prominent Zora figure in the Legend of Zelda series, especially in Ocarina of Time. As King Zora's daughter, the Princess of Zora's domain, and servant of the Zora's guardian deity, Lord Jabu Jabu, she holds an important place in the story and later awakens as the Sage of Water. In her younger years, Ruto is depicted as proud, headstrong, and demanding, with a sharp temper and a great deal of confidence. Over time, however, she grows into a wiser and more compassionate leader. Ruto is one of the series' most direct characters when it comes to her feelings for Link. After he rescues her, she gives him the Zora's Sapphire, explaining that her mother said it should only be given to the man she intends to marry, making her view it as a kind of engagement token. Years later, as an adult, she still openly refers to Link as the one she chose as her future husband. Princess Styla is the princess of Hytopia in Triforce Heroes and the daughter of King Tuft. She is described as strikingly beautiful with pale skin, large dark eyes with blue highlights, a small nose, and long curly golden blonde hair that reaches her legs, with 2 braided strands resting over her shoulders. Her outfit reflects Hytopia's love of style, consisting of an elegant princess gown in soft lilac, pale yellow, and orange tones, along with long pale yellow gloves and a large yellow flower worn in her hair. For much of the game, Styla endures shame and seclusion because of the curse placed upon her. Even so, she does not withdraw completely from her people or from Link's quest. She sometimes secretly appears around Hytopia to watch and encourage Link from a distance, though the townspeople, only catching brief glimpses of her, mistake her for a dark, ghostly figure. Beyond her graceful appearance, Styla is kind-hearted and deeply concerned for the well-being of her subjects. She also has a strong love for fashion and a fondness for all things cute. Ravio is a central character in A Link Between Worlds and serves as Link's counterpart from the Kingdom of Hyrule. Though he originates from Hyrule, he presents himself as an odd but helpful shopkeeper living in Hyrule, where he rents useful items to Link to aid him on his journey. He is usually seen alongside his pet bird, Shiro, whose expressions and movements often mirror Ravio's own behavior. Unlike Link, who is typically defined by bravery and determination, Ravio is notably timid and easily frightened. He wants to do the right thing, but he lacks the courage to confront danger directly. After realizing that Yuga was using Princess Hilda, Ravio fled to Hyrule in search of someone capable of stopping the threat. Even with his anxious nature, he remains well-meaning and supportive. A century before Breath of the Wild, Revali served as the Rito champion and the pilot of divine beast Vom Meadow. Celebrated as the tribe's finest archer, he was famed for firing arrows with incredible speed and for wielding the Great Eagle Bow, a weapon so demanding that few Rito could handle it. He could also generate a powerful updraft that let him rise into the air, an ability later remembered as Revali's Gale. Raised in Rito Village, Revali kept a journal of his thoughts and training as he worked relentlessly to become the greatest archer of his people. His talent earned him repeated victories in archery contests, where he shattered old records and became a constant source of pride among the Rito. Revali is outwardly proud, sharp-tongued, and often smug, especially around Link. He tends to brag about his skill and struggles to accept being outperformed. Much of his hostility towards Link comes from jealousy over Link's status and frustration with Link's stoic personality. However, beneath this harsh and distant attitude, Revali actually uses arrogance as a shield for his deeper insecurities, since, although he valued the admiration he received from others, the non-stop praise and attention also put him under great pressure. Lady Riju is the young leader of the Gerudo in the era of the Wilds. She became chief after the death of her mother, and because she was her mother's only child, the role of ruling Gerudo Town passed directly to her. Her age makes many of her people uneasy about having such a young chief, which leads Riju to doubt whether she can ever live up to her mother's legacy. At only 12 years old, Riju carries major responsibility while still being very much a child. This is reflected in details around her room, such as stuffed toys and playful decorations on her bed, as well as the cushions placed on her throne to make it fit her smaller size. She is also protected and guided by Buliara, who serves as both her guard and advisor. In Tears of the Kingdom, Riju and Link investigate the Lightning Temple together, where they overcome its trials and defeat Queen Gibdo. After the victory, Riju awakens as the Sage of Lightning. Saria is a character in Ocarina of Time and one of Link's closest childhood friends from their days in Kokiri Forest. She is popular among the Kokiri and is often found in the Sacred Forest meadow where she plays her ocarina. She is portrayed as kind, gentle, and unusually emotionally mature, and she stands out as one of the few Kokiri who shows Link genuine warmth from the very beginning. After Link clears the Forest Temple, Saria awakens as the Sage of the Forest. She then gives him the Forest Medallion and joins the other sages in opposing Ganondorf. Sidon is a Zora from the era of the Wilds and a notable member of the Zora royal family. He is King Dorephin's son and Mipha's younger brother. His design resembles a hammerhead shark and he is distinguished by his vivid red coloration. As a royal, Sidon is far larger and more powerful than most other Zora. He wears silver jewelry and decorative pieces that signify his noble status. His signature weapon is the light-scale trident, once wielded by his sister Mipha before her death more than a century earlier. Sidon is outgoing and charismatic with a bright, upbeat outlook that stays intact even in difficult moments. He rarely lets hardship dampen his spirit, and despite his royal background, he does not act distant or above others. His friendliness and generosity make him especially admired by younger Zora, and his compassion extends beyond his own people to other races as well. Although he is often cheerful, he knows when to be serious and strongly rejects unfairness or prejudice. Beneath that optimism, Sidon still carries deep grief over Mipha's death, and he is sometimes seen quietly mourning at her statue. Even so, he chooses to honor her memory by staying hopeful and dedicating himself to safeguarding his people and homeland, just as she asked of him when he was young. In Tears of the Kingdom, Sidon ultimately awakens as the Sage of Water. Skull Kid is a recurring, imp-like forest creature in the Legend of Zelda series, though the name most commonly refers to the mischievous and lonely character who plays a central role in Majora's Mask. In Majora's Mask, Skull Kid is defined as much by his loneliness as by his mischief. The game reveals that he once shared a close bond with the four giants, but their separation left him feeling abandoned and bitter. That emotional pain makes him easy for Majora's Mask to manipulate. After Majora is defeated, Skull Kid is released from its control and is able to reunite with the giants. Tail is a fairy from Majora's Mask and the younger brother of Tattle. He stands out from most other fairies because of his dark purple color, which contrasts with the brighter tones usually associated with fairies in the series. At the beginning of the game, Tail and Tattle are both companions of Skull Kid. After Tattle is separated and ends up traveling with Link, Tail stays by Skull Kid's side for most of the story. Compared to Tattle, Tail is gentler, more innocent, and far more timid, often unable to resist Skull Kid's harsh treatment. At the same time, he seems to better understand Skull Kid's pain and the reasons behind his behavior. While Tattle tends to blame Skull Kid himself, Tail recognizes that Majora's Mask is truly responsible for corrupting their friend. Tattle is Link's fairy companion in Majora's Mask, filling a role similar to Navi in Ocarina of Time. She helps Link interact with enemies, objects, and people by guiding his targeting. Unlike Navi, who speaks in short repeated phrases, Tattle communicates through distinctive bell-like chimes. She is also Tail's older sister. In appearance, Tattle is a small glowing fairy whose light coloring sets her apart from Tail's much darker look. Unlike Navi, Tattle has a far more outspoken and tomboyish personality. Early in the story, she is sharp, rude, and openly blames Link for her separation from Tail. As the adventure continues, though, she gradually shows a softer and more compassionate side, especially in her worry for her brother, her sadness over Skull Kid's suffering, and the respect she comes to feel for Link. Tri is Princess Zelda's companion in Echoes of Wisdom, acting as her guide after she is wrongfully imprisoned. Tri is a small, unusual being with a yellow upper body and a pointed head, along with a green lower half supported by two cyan legs. One eye is a simple black dot, while the other has a flower-like shape, and their mouth appears as a small dot connected by a line to that eye. Floating above Tri's head are several yellow triangles that indicate how many objects Zelda can summon with the Tri-Rod. Kind, inquisitive, and focused, Tri helped Zelda on her quest to investigate the mysterious rifts threatening Hyrule. Their powers are central to the game's mechanics since they allow Zelda to use the Tri-Rod to copy objects and monsters. This gives her a wide range of ways to solve problems and overcome obstacles. Tulin is the son of the Rito elder Teba and his wife Saki. He first appears in Breath of the Wild in a small role, but in Tears of the Kingdom, he has grown into a capable young warrior under his father's training. During that adventure, he accepts his ancestor's secret stone and awakens as the new Sage of Wind. He has white and gray feathers, much like Teba's, making her family's resemblance clear. In Breath of the Wild, Tulin looks very young and childlike, while in Tears of the Kingdom he appears older and more confident, with the bearing of a fighter. Tulin is brave, enthusiastic, and proud. When he is younger, he comes across as energetic and full of admiration for his father and the older Rito warriors. As he matures, that same spirit remains, but is joined by impatience and a strong need to prove his own abilities. Urbosa is the Gerudo chief predating Riju in the era of the Wilds, as well as one of Hyrule's 4 champions and the chosen pilot of Divine Beast Va Naboris. In Breath of the Wild, she fights alongside Link, Zelda, Daruk, Mipha, and Revali in the effort to stop Calamity Ganon. She is especially associated with the power of lightning. Like other Gerudo, Urbosa is tall, but she is also notably athletic and powerfully built. She has sun-brown skin, striking sea-green eyes, a long pointed nose, and long red hair that is braided at the end. Her look is further defined by a golden headpiece and dark blue lipstick. Although she looks imposing, Urbosa is warm, charismatic, and deeply caring. She shows a strong, protective, almost motherly affection towards Princess Zelda, partly because of her close bond with Zelda's mother, the Queen of Hyrule. Urbosa is an exceptionally skilled Gerudo warrior, known for her strength, agility, and sharp instincts. She is powerful enough to handle multiple Yiga clan members with ease, and perceptive enough to quickly identify hidden assassins. She is also one of the rare Gerudo born with magical talent, and her great mastery lies in thunder magic, which she can wield with extraordinary precision and force, even summoning massive lightning strikes with a snap of her finger. Yunobo is a character who appears in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. He is Daruk's grandson and inherited the same protective power his grandfather once used, including during the struggle against Divine Beast Va Rudanya. By the time of Tears of the Kingdom, Yunobo has grown into a business leader and runs the mining company Yunobo Co. as its president. It is later revealed that he descends from the Sage of Fire, one of the ancient 6 sages. After accepting his ancestor's secret stone, he awakens as the new Sage of Fire. Personality-wise, Yunobo is gentle, timid, and somewhat insecure, especially when he compares himself to Daruk's fearless reputation. Even so, he has a good heart and always wants to help others however he can. Though naturally cowardly, he is capable of real courage when it matters most. His experiences with Link help him become more confident, and that growth eventually leads him to build his own successful company. This section provides a general overview of several enemies and enemy types from the Legend of Zelda games. Much like the characters section, we will focus on significant figures and iconic enemy types rather than attempting to cover every enemy, as many do not have enough detail or a distinct enough personality to merit their own entry. Armos are recurring foes in the Legend of Zelda series, often appearing as stone or mechanical statues that spring to life when disturbed. Their behavior, weaknesses, and environments differ from game to game, but they are usually motionless at first before suddenly attacking. Some versions can even explode after taking damage. Over the series, several distinct types have appeared, such as Armos Knights, Death Armos, the Armos Warrior, and Totem Armos. Armos Knights are larger and more powerful versions that often serve as bosses or mini-bosses, such as the group fought in A Link to the Past. Death Armos, seen in Majora's Mask, float through the air and try to slam down on Link, with their weak point being the red crest on their body. The Armos Warrior has a more specialized defense, requiring its own weapon to be turned against it before it can be hurt. In Triforce Heroes, Totem Armos appear as stacked statue formations that can also act as moving platforms, while in Echoes of Wisdom they are found in areas like the Faron Wetlands and can be turned into an echo after being defeated. Bellum is a sinister squid-like monster. Bellum can only be destroyed with the legendary Phantom Sword. Deep within the Temple of the Ocean King, Link confronts Bellum using the Phantom Sword along with the Phantom Hourglass and Phantom Spheres created by Ciela, managing to bring the creature down for a time. Bellum survives this initial encounter though, and seizes the revived Tetra while taking control of the ghost ship in an attempt to flee. Link and Linebeck work together to destroy the ship, but Bellum continues the attack, sending wreckage crashing into their boat. Oshus then appears to be killed in the chaos, and Bellum captures Link, though Linebeck rescues him with the Phantom Blade before Bellum turns and takes Linebeck instead. As a final attempt to stop Link, Bellum possesses Linebeck and transforms him into a giant phantom known as Bellumbeck. After a long battle, Link finally breaks Bellum's hold over Linebeck and defeats the monster for good. Dark Link, first introduced as Link's Shadow, is a recurring foe in the Legend of Zelda series. He appears as a dark double of Link, matching the hero's appearance. Mysterious and unsettling, he usually arrives without any real explanation or dialogue, though he is often suggested to be a being formed from dark magic frequently connected to Ganon. Because he is essentially Link's sinister counterpart, Dark Link is often portrayed as one of the hardest opponents in the series. His appearance mirrors whichever version of Link he is based on, including the tunic, cap, sword, and shield. He is commonly shown with glowing red eyes which stand out sharply against his otherwise dark form. Darknuts are heavily armored knight-like enemies that carry large swords and broad shields. They are especially known for their skill in close combat, most notably in Twilight Princess, where fighting them requires patience, good timing, and attacking from the right angle instead of simply rushing in. The Dark Knight group includes the standard form as well as many named versions, including Red, Blue, Golden, Silver, Mighty, Green, Mace, Black Knight, and the level 2 and level 3 types. Some of these are clearly stronger evolutions, while others are mainly alternate color schemes or weapon-based variations created for a specific game's battle style. Lord Girahim is one of the primary antagonists of Skyward Sword. A powerful figure in the world beneath Skyloft, Girahim carries himself with arrogance and demands to be addressed with his full title. His goal is to capture Princess Zelda so he can use her divine spirit to bring his master, Demise, back to life. He is presented as theatrical and self-assured, masking his menace behind a calm but deeply conceited demeanor. Girahim behaves in an overly dramatic way, speaking with polished, elaborate flair. He is deeply proud of his looks and openly admires his own beauty, viewing himself as elegant and flawless. When he first meets Link, he even acts with a kind of exaggerated courtesy, claiming it was improper not to introduce himself correctly. Even so, that surface-level politeness quickly gives way to cruelty. Girahim frequently mocks others, throws insults at them, and treats them as beneath him. Because he sees himself as both superior and honorable, he initially avoids killing Link outright, believing it would be beneath him. Instead, he prefers to play with his opponents, drawing out their fear and pain for his own amusement. When Girahim's plans begin to unravel, his polished facade breaks apart and he turns feral, lashing out with rage and an obvious thirst for violence. Thus, beneath his elegant theatrical exterior, he is shown to be ruthless and unstable, driven by a deep desire for combat and destruction. Even with all his cruelty and confidence, Girahim is never able to overcome Link, and each failure pushes him further into anger and humiliation. He becomes especially enraged by the idea that a human could stand against him. At one point, he even describes himself as a merciless weapon, hinting that his savage bloodlust comes from his true nature, as Demise's sword brought to life. Gleeoks are recurring boss monsters in the Legend of Zelda series, known for their dragon-like bodies and multiple heads. In the original game, Gleeok appear 3 times, and each battle follows the same basic pattern. Link must use his sword to sever each of the creature's heads one by one. After a head is cut off, it continues flying around the room and attacks by spitting fireballs. Link has to dodge each projectile while continuing to remove the remaining heads. In Oracle of Seasons, Gleeok appears as a 2-headed boss in the Explorer's Crypt, but this battle works differently from the original game. Link still needs to remove both heads, but he has to do it fast, since they can reattach if he takes too long. Once both are cut off in time, the heads are destroyed for good and Gleeok is reduced to a skeleton. Even then, the fight is not over. The creature's bones keep attacking by leaping around, shaking the arena and charging at Link, and Link must strike with his sword whenever the monster lands. In Phantom Hourglass, Gleeok appears again as a 2-headed dragon, and the boss of the Temple of Ice. Its 2 heads attack with different elements. The red one launches fireballs, while the blue one breathes freezing ice. In Tears of the Kingdom, Gleeoks return as giant 3-headed dragons in flame, frost, and thunder forms. A stronger type called the King Gleeok also appears. Unlike the standard version, its 3 heads each control a different element: fire, ice, and lightning. Keese are small bat-like monsters commonly found in caves and dungeons, much like real bats. First introduced in The Legend of Zelda, they went on to become one of the series' recurring enemies appearing in most games. They are usually encountered in groups and tend to flutter around unpredictably, often without a clear target. From time to time, they pause to cling to nearby walls or rocky surfaces. Because they are small and fragile, keys are not especially hard to defeat. A wide range of weapons can take them down, including swords, arrows, bombs, and boomerangs. Over the course of the series, keys have appeared in several elemental and regional variations suited to their environments. Among the best known are fire keys and ice keys, which are surrounded by flames and freezing mist. Other, less common types include key swarms, shadow keys, thunder keys, and dark keys. Lady Maud is the main villain of Triforce Heroes. She is a witch who rules the Drablands and is the older sister of Madame Kotor. Both come from a tribe known for creating magical clothing, but Lady Maud felt that her talent was overlooked. Bitter over the lack of recognition, she left for the Drablands, where her fashion sense was better received by the monsters. Over time, she became obsessed with power. She especially resented Princess Styla of Hytopia, whose overly cute style she could not stand. Disguising her malice as generosity, Lady Maud sent Styla a gift that turned out to be cursed. When opened, it forced the princess into an ugly jumpsuit she could not remove. Lady Maud insisted that she was only trying to improve Styla's wardrobe, but the result left the princess humiliated and in hiding. Fear of being cursed spread throughout Hytopia, causing the people to abandon the fashionable clothing they wore altogether. In response, King Tuff formed the Witch Hunting Brigade, and Link is drawn into the mission after arriving in the kingdom. In appearance, Lady Maud is a slim, middle-aged woman with fair skin, short blonde hair, and noticeable lines around her mouth. She wears a fitted light purple dress with pink stripes, oversized sunglasses, a white hat tied with a pink ribbon, a ribbon neckpiece, and white boots. Lady Maud is portrayed as vain, self-centered, and convinced that her sense of fashion is the only one that matters. She dismisses other people's opinions, and her jealousy and cruelty are what drive her to place a curse on Princess Styla. She also has a short temper, lashing out whenever things fail to go the way she expects. Lynels are one of the Zelda series' most feared recurring enemies. They are usually shown as fierce, centaur-like creatures with the lower body of a horse and the upper body of a lion-like warrior. Throughout the franchise, they are regularly treated as some of the strongest foes Link can face outside of the final boss. They debuted in The Legend of Zelda and later appeared in A Link to the Past, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, A Link Between Worlds, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and Echoes of Wisdom. Lynels became most notable in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where they are depicted as highly intelligent, durable, and relentlessly aggressive. They can shrug off many elemental attacks and fight with a wide range of equipment, including powerful melee weapons, bows, and shields. Their attacks include charging straight at enemies, creating explosive blasts, breathing fire, and firing repeated arrow volleys. In Breath of the Wild, they also appear in several tiers, including red-maned, blue-maned, white-maned, silver, and golden Lynels. In Majora's Mask, Majora is the central evil Link must confront. For most of the story, the mask is worn by Skull Kid atop the clock tower, where it drives the moon toward Termina in an attempt to wipe out the world. During the final battle, Majora fights Link through 3 different forms. The first is the mask itself, which comes alive and grows tentacle-like limbs. After that, it changes into Majora's incarnation, a strangely humanoid form that darts around the arena, taunts Link with bizarre dancing, and attacks mainly with energy projectiles. Once that form falls, Majora reveals its final shape, Majora's Wrath, a monstrous demonic figure with whip-like arms, faster movement, and a much deadlier set of attacks. By stunning it with projectiles like light arrows and following up with melee attacks, Link can destroy Majora, which brings an end to the threat and saves Termina from destruction. Malladus is the main villain of Spirit Tracks. Long before the founding of New Hyrule, he was a destructive demon who plagued the land until the spirits of good defeated and sealed him beneath the Tower of Spirits. The tower and the Spirit Tracks together serve as the barrier keeping him imprisoned. Later, Chancellor Cole works to break that seal and restore Malladus to power. With Zelda's help, Link destroys him for good, defeating both Malladus and Cole. Master Koga leads the Yiga clan, a group opposed to the Sheikah that relentlessly targets Link and serves Calamity Ganon. Although he holds power and commands respect, he is lazy, often sleeping or slacking off, and has a strong fondness for mighty bananas. After Link defeats Master Koga, Koga gathers his remaining strength to unleash what he calls a secret technique, but it fails and sends him plunging into a massive pit. As he falls, he shouts that he will not be forgotten and vows that the Yiga clan will pursue Link across all of Hyrule. In Tears of the Kingdom, Koga survives the fall and shows up again in the depths. There he is driven by revenge against Link and works to use Zonai technology to further his plans. He appears during the Master Koga of the Yiga clan side adventure, where Link faces him across several encounters. Moblins are one of the most recognizable and regularly recurring enemy types in the Legend of Zelda series, frequently shown as part of Ganon's forces. In the earliest games, they looked more like upright bulldogs, but starting with A Link to the Past, their design shifted toward a more pig-like or goblin-like appearance. They are most commonly associated with spears or javelins, and are often found in wooded areas, though they also appear in caves, mountains, and dungeons. In the 2D titles, moblins are basic enemies that appear early and are not especially difficult to defeat. In the 3D games, however, they are often reimagined as much larger and more dangerous foes with stronger attacks, while weaker frontline enemies are typically replaced by creatures like bokoblins or bulblins. Although their overall role has stayed fairly consistent, several variations have appeared across the series. These include forms such as club moblins, spear moblins, bow moblins, and shield moblins, each defined by their weapon or fighting style. In some games like Link's Awakening and the Oracle titles, both the older bulldog style and newer pig-like versions appear, with the pig-like one specifically called borblins. More prominent members of the species, such as King Moblin and Great Moblin, have also appeared, along with related enemy types like bokoblins, mini-blins, bulblins, big-blins, and horriblins. Octoroks are octopus-inspired enemies known for firing rocks from their tube-shaped mouths at regular intervals. They are most often found in overworld areas like Hyrule, though they sometimes appear in dungeons as well. Their look, behavior, and environment can vary across the series. Octoroks are generally territorial rather than outright aggressive, usually attacking only when they feel threatened. Over the course of the series, several different types have appeared, including flying Octoroks, golden Octoroks, and Octomines. Larger versions, such as Big Octos, often serve as sub-bosses, while the Minish Cap features a boss called Big Octorok, which is technically ordinary in size but formidable because Link is shrunken down. Onyx, also called General Onyx, is one of the two primary villains in the Oracle games alongside Varin, and he serves as the final boss of Oracle of Seasons. As the General of Darkness, he works under Twinrova and aims to throw Holodrum into chaos by kidnapping Din, the Oracle of Seasons. In battle, Onyx is a heavy-hitting enemy whose armor resists ordinary sword strikes, forcing Link to rely on spin attacks to damage him. He attacks with powerful moves such as falling rocks and bursts of Gale Force Wind. During the fight, he also uses Din, still trapped inside a crystal, as a shield, so Link must use the Rod of Seasons to knock her aside before attacking or else risk being shocked. Once Onyx is beaten in this form, he transforms into a stronger dragon-like version. To finish the battle, Link has to leap onto Onyx's hands and strike the jewel on his head. Phantom Ganon is a recurring enemy and boss in the Legend of Zelda series, usually portrayed as a ghostly version of Ganon. Rather than being the true villain himself, he is typically an extension of Ganon's power, acting as a servant, puppet, projection, or duplicate, meant to guard important places and stand in Link's way. Kotake and Kume, together known as Twinrova, are a recurring pair of Gerudo witches in the Legend of Zelda series. They are associated with ice and fire respectively, and are portrayed as some of Ganondorf's most loyal and formidable followers, even serving as his surrogate mothers. Individually, they are women with the classic look of witches, including bent postures, exaggerated features, and distinct color themes that match their powers. When they merge into Twinrova, they take on the form of a single tall Gerudo woman with a far younger and more striking appearance, combining traits from both sisters. This fused form is marked by one red, one blue eye, long white hair split into fire and ice elements, and clothing and accessories that reflect both halves of their power. When united as Twinrova, their power increases significantly, allowing them to wield both fire and ice together in much stronger attacks while floating freely without the need for brooms. Vaati is a recurring villain in the Legend of Zelda series and serves as the primary enemy in Four Swords and the Minish Cap. Like Ganon, he is shown in both a human-like form and a monster form. He also appears in several additional forms, including a Minish form. Originally, Vaati looked like an ordinary Minish. However, after wearing a magical cap, he was transformed dramatically and took on a Hylian-like appearance. He became pale-skinned with red eyes and long hair. In this form, he wears a purple tunic fastened with a gold clasp, a matching long undershirt, a golden belt with a red buckle, red pants, and wrapped sandals in the same shade. He also keeps the sorcerer's hat, which is purple with gold detailing and a red jewel at the center. In his original demonic state, Vaati appears as a shadowy rounded creature with one large red eye at the center of his body. He has multiple bat-like wings along his sides, a whip-like limb lined with many orb-shaped segments, and a crescent-shaped headpiece. Like many villains in the series, Vaati is driven by a relentless hunger for magic and greater power. That obsession is what pushed him to misuse the magical cap for his own gain, and he shows little concern for anyone harmed in his pursuit of strength. Varen is the main villain of Oracle of Ages. She is an agent of Twinrova whose goal is to help revive Ganon by spreading misery throughout Labrynna. Her real identity is an evil demon fairy called forth from the Dark Realm. Varen is cunning, merciless, and power-hungry. She is also vain, often praising her own appearance. She is usually seen as a teal-skinned woman wearing a lightly armored gown. Her powers allow her to teleport, unleash bursts of fireballs, and call spider-like creatures down from above. Her most disturbing ability is Possession, which lets her bend others to her will. Anyone under her control takes on her teal coloration, though the people around them never seem to notice. Varen can also shift into different forms, but her true shape is the Evil Fairy, a form that can fly swiftly, shoot fireballs, and create several shadow links. If needed, she can transform into various animals as a final measure, though she clearly dislikes those forms and sees them as disgusting. Yuga is the main villain of A Link Between Worlds, an evil sorcerer from Lorule who seeks out Princess Zelda and the descendants of the Seven Sages in order to revive Ganon. His ultimate goal is to seize power over both Hyrule and Lorule and elevate himself to a godlike status. His signature power is the ability to turn people and objects into paintings. Using his wand, he can seal victims into picture frames and carry them away as pieces of living art. After merging with Ganon, Yuga takes on a monstrous boar-like form inspired by Ganon's appearance, though he still keeps parts of his original look, including his red hair and loose pants. He also gains a ruffled collar bearing Lorule's symbol. Yuga is deeply obsessed with beauty and art, but in a twisted way. He treats living beings as objects to be preserved in painted form. He is also cunning and deceptive, having manipulated Princess Hilda into helping him steal Hyrule's Triforce before betraying her for his own gain. At the same time, his arrogance leads him to underestimate others, especially Link. Zant first appears in Twilight Princess as one of the game's two central villains alongside Ganondorf. He seizes control of the Twilight Realm from Midna before the events of the story and sets himself up as its ruler, calling himself the King of Darkness. He is a tall, thin Tweely dressed in flowing black robes decorated with turquoise twilight markings on his sleeves. His helmet resembles a chameleon's head and is covered in layered metal details, including a mouthpiece shaped like a tongue. Beneath it, Zant has pale blue skin, orange eyes, purple lips, and red hair, mostly covered by a tight head wrap, with the symbol of the Twilight Realm marked on his forehead. For much of Twilight Princess, Zant presents himself as composed, ruthless, and calculating, carrying himself like a powerful ruler convinced that the Tweely are meant to dominate the world of light. He is bitter that Midna was chosen instead of him, despises the people of the Light World, and shows no hesitation in committing cruel acts, including turning his own people into shadow beasts and eliminating anyone who resists him. As the story progresses, however, this cold and regal image breaks down, exposing him as erratic, immature, and obsessively loyal to Ganondorf. And that, my friends, is the ultimate Legend of Zelda lore breakdown. What's your favorite Legend of Zelda video game? Let us know in the comments. Also, feel free to leave a comment with any other lore breakdowns you would like to see. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to the next video with all of you.